Chapter 322. The Warhound's army adjusted themselves and then continued to attack the fortress. Several dozen giant monsters charged at the very front with earth-shaking steps. Several hundred to over 1,000 talisman arrows fell on their bodies, but they did not cause any damage. Only archers at the illustrious Soul Realm or heavy crossbow carts could barely injure them. Dongfang Zhan stood on the observation deck, leaning on his sword, his eyes fixed on the fierce battlefield. Messengers kept coming in from all over, reporting the situation of the defense of each section of the city wall. Dongfang Zhan was mobilizing his troops according to the situation. The battle had already started for half an hour and the battle had already reached its climax. This was a rarely seen large-scale battle. The Warhound's attacks were very fierce, but the situation had not collapsed yet and everything was under control. Dongfang Zhan was an old general who had experienced hundreds of battles, so he had a very precise control over the battlefield. The Warhound's casualties were 3 times that of the Southern Summer Army and the Warhound's aerial troops had basically been destroyed. Southern Xia's casualties were not light, but they only had half of their army fighting, so they could rotate to ensure their battle strength. The Warhounds were the attacking side. Southern Xia was the defending side. Using stillness to stop the enemy and using slowness to stop the enemy, this was the key to victory for the Southern Summer side. Dongfang Zhan did not rely on the number of enemies he could kill, but rather he steadily defended, wearing down the Warhound's spirit. As long as the Warhounds did not succeed in their first attack, it would be hard for the Warhounds to launch a second attack. This was because the Warhounds did not have any aerial troops and they had lost a large number of giant beasts. This battle could only be fought in one go, otherwise they would be exhausted. Just now, a mysterious pressure had appeared from an unknown location in the fortress, causing the Warhounds to fall into chaos and disturbing the order of the Warhounds. The Warhounds' army was still fierce, but they were slowly declining. "It's about time," Dongfang Zhan coldly said, "have the cavalry gather at the 30th pass. Once the Warhounds retreat, immediately charge at the defeated Warhounds from both sides. Remember to only attack once, don't be greedy and continue fighting. Open the 15th pass to provide support." The Warhound's defeat was only a matter of time, so he wanted to maximize the results of this battle. Once the Warhounds began to retreat, the several 100,000 army would fall into chaos. At this time, the Southern Summer Cavalry would charge forward and they would take at least 80 to 100,000 heads, dealing a heavy blow to the Warhounds. Who knew that at this moment, a sharp voice would resound in the sky above the stronghold. "The Southern Summer King is dead. Southern Summer Army, quickly give up your resistance." A Warhound's expert holding a black blade climbed onto a watchtower of the fortress, raising a head high up in his left hand. When the Southern Summer soldiers saw that head, their minds almost collapsed. This head was not someone else's, it was actually the Southern Summer King. "The Southern Summer King is dead. The Southern Summer King is dead." This was like a bolt from the blue. The Southern Summer Army was instantly stunned. Everyone fell into a panic. If even the Southern Summer King died, could they still fight this battle? The Warhound's army seemed to have noticed the movements on this side, so they increased the pace of their attacks, increasing their strength while the Southern Summer Army's morale was hit. Dongfang Zhan coldly stared, his eyelids not even blinking. This is nothing more than a psychological attack by the enemy. My king has already retreated, how could he be harmed by these evil soldiers? Pass down my command, those who spread rumors and mislead the people will be beheaded without mercy. Dongfang Zhan's words calmed the hearts of the generals. The generals immediately beheaded a few cowardly people that wavered the morale of the army before continuing to command the battle. No one noticed that Dongfang Zhan's slightly trembling hand. My king. Had he really been harmed? If the Southern Summer King had died in the frontline fortress, once this matter was confirmed, it would be a destructive blow to the morale of the army. It would set off a large wave in all of Southern Xia. Dongfang Zhan was not sure if this matter was true, so he could only choose not to believe it. He was the commander of the army and if he wavered, how could his soldiers fight in peace? At this time, Chu Tian, Gu Qianqiu, and Meng Qinggu arrived at the command platform. They all looked very distressed, and even Meng Qinggu was covered in blood. She had been protecting Chu Tian the entire time and had killed at least 20 Warhound soldiers. Chu Tian was very weak and his battle strength had been greatly reduced. If it wasn't for Gu Qianqiu and Meng Qinggu protecting him, he would have already been killed by the Warhounds. Gu Qianqiu shouted with an anxious expression, "Marshal, we have something to report." Dongfang Zhan asked with a calm face, "What is going on?" "The Battle Dragon army is suspected of rebelling." Gu Qianqiu anxiously said, "My king has given the order to quickly quell the rebellion and avoid a rebellion in the fortress." "What? The Battle Dragon army is rebelling?" His intuition told Dongfang Zhan that this was most likely true. He had already suspected Wang Tianlong, but Wang Tianlong was watertight and he could not find any evidence. If the Battle Dragon army was really rebelling, the frontline fortress would be in great danger. There was another point that made Dongfang Zhan's heart sink. If Wang Tianlong was rebelling, he would not let go of such a good chance to kill the king. This also meant that the news was most likely true and the Southern Summer King had already been killed. Gu Qianqiu and the others clearly knew how powerful this was, so they did not directly say it. "This is the king's command token." This was the Southern Summer King's supreme command token. It would not be given to anyone. If this command token was not on the Southern Summer King's body, then there was only one possibility: the Southern Summer King was already dead. Damn it! Dongfang Zhan suppressed his grief. "These damn beasts." Chu Tian weakly walked over and cupped his hands to Dongfang Zhan as he said, "Marshal, now that things have reached this point, we have to make a quick decision. Whether the frontline fortress can be defended or not is all up to the marshal." Gu Qianqiu also said, "As long as the fortress is defended, Southern Summer will be impregnable. If the fortress is broken, Southern Summer will be in great danger." Report. A messenger ran over in a hurry. "Marshal, the Western Battle Dragon Fortress is suspected to have been attacked by the Warhounds and the garrison is in a bitter battle. The beacon for help has already been lit." Dongfang Zhan's fist shattered the wall. "Activate the Blood Eagle camp. This old man will personally quell the rebellion." The Blood Eagle camp was the Dongfang family's army and was the direct subordinate of the calm martial ruler. It was also a very precious air force. Because of the Blood Eagle camp's special characteristics, it was a fast response force on the front lines. Although they were stationed in the fortress, they would not easily participate in the battle. Only in this kind of sudden crisis would the Blood Eagle camp participate in the battle with the marshal's order. "We're also going." Gu Qianqiu blew a flute. Several dozen Griffin Knights were gathered in front of the palace. Dongfang Zhan had already activated the Blood Eagle camp at this time. Several hundred blood-clothed generals of the Dongfang family were riding blood eagles as they charged out of the fortress. Chu Tian, Gu Qianqiu, and Meng Qinggu rode on a griffin and used the king's command to order the remaining several dozen royal knights to cooperate with the Blood Eagle camp, heading in the direction of the Battle Dragon Fortress. Whether it was the griffin or the Blood Eagle, they were all very fast. Especially when they charged at full speed, they didn't even need half an hour to cross the long distance, arriving at the chaotic Battle Dragon Fortress. The Battle Dragon Fortress was already in chaos. The Battle Dragon army had rebelled and there were many Warhounds experts hidden in the Battle Dragon army. This sudden eruption caught the Southern Summer army off guard. The good thing was that the Battle Dragon army only rebelled against the Earth Dragon army under Wang Tianlong. The other several tens of thousands of normal soldiers did not rebel. Adding in the fact that the Battle Dragon Fortress was not completely guarded by the Battle Dragon army, there were also high-level generals from other factions. Although the situation was very dangerous, it was not to the point of collapse. Crazy. Are you crazy? A Battle Dragon army vice-general was covered in blood with several wounds, leading several hundred personal soldiers in a desperate resistance. "I don't believe the young commander would betray the Southern Summer country." Wang Tu held a spear in his hand as he led the Earth Dragon cavalry and the Warhounds experts to surround them. Wang Tu shouted with a cold smile, Wang Lai. Whether or not my clan can regain the status of the royal family will all depend on this battle. The young commander did not tell you because he knew you were a stubborn person. I never thought that you would still obstruct the royal family's plans like this. If you continue to stubbornly resist, don't blame this general's spear for not being polite. Royal family? Wang Tu broke out in laughter. If the royal family needs to bow down to the war hounds, what use is the royal family's status? Could it be you want to become the war hounds' slaves? The war hounds are our enemies. Betraying the southern summer country and betraying humanity, you are worse than dogs and pigs. We would rather die than submit. Alright, you're seeking death. Wang Tu flew into a rage. Kill. The Earth Dragon army charged forward and this general named Wang Lai was instantly injured in several places. His personal soldiers were all killed in battle. A vice-general of the Battle Dragon army slashed out with his blade. Ah! Wang Lai gave a pitiful cry as one of his arms was cut off. Wang Tu gave a disdainful sneer. This is the result of not listening. Kill him for me. Traitor. Die. A terrifying roar came from the battle path as several hundred bloodhawks charged out like a whirlwind. The Battle Dragon army was caught off guard and several dozen of them were instantly killed. Wang Tu was shocked and angry. Bloodhawk camp? Why did they come this quickly? The Earth Dragon army was the Wang family's most important army, having a total of 2,000 people. They had already lost quite a bit in the battle and now that the Bloodhawk camp had joined the battle, another group of Earth Dragons had been killed. How could Wang Tu not be angry? What does the Bloodhawk camp count for? Would the Wang family's Earth Dragon cavalry be afraid of you? Wang Tu did not even have time to curse before he saw a white-haired old general leading the Bloodhawk camp. He was holding a giant sword as he stood on the back of a Bloodhawk, charging at Wang Tuesday. It's Dongfang Zhan. Wang Tu quickly raised his spear to block it. Die for me. Dongfang Zhan's sword and spearhead were fiercely cut in half. Dongfang Zhan had been a veteran of the battlefield for several decades, killing countless people and even meeting true spirit realm experts. His strength was higher than any marquis. It was not something Wang Tu in the Ninth Awakened Soul Layer could block. When Wang Lai saw Dongfang Zhan appear, he let out a sigh of relief. This general is ashamed. I couldn't block them. I asked the marshal to protect the frontline fortress. My southern summer and the war hounds are irreconcilable. We can't even give up an inch of land. After saying this, he fell into the sea of corpses. This Wang family general had fought until now, but he finally died from his heavy injuries. Chapter 323. Dongfang Zhan's eyes popped out in anger. If it wasn't for the fact that there were righteous and selfless generals in the army, perhaps the Battle Dragon fortress would have already fallen. If this place was broken through, the entire frontline defense line would collapse. General, please be assured. Dongfang Zhan took off his cloak and placed it over Wang Lai's body. He gave him a solemn military salute. This old soldier swears to live and die with the frontline soldiers, to live and die with the frontline defense. After saying this, he kicked away Wang Tu's broken corpse and threw out Wang Lai's spear. The spear spun at high speed as it shot out. It was as if it was piercing through a layer of paper. It pierced through the chest armor and nailed the corpse to the wall. In the end, the huge force tore it apart, and the broken pieces of flesh bloomed like flowers. This is the fate of a traitor. Dongfang Zhan pulled out the large sword, stabbed into the ground, and spirit energy was poured into the sword. The sword glow instantly soared into the sky, and that cold aura filled people with fear. This over 100-year-old white-haired general was like an enraged lion at this moment as he angrily roared, "For Southern Summer, for the human race, kill the traitors and sweep away the war hounds. As long as we have a breath left, we will not stop fighting. Kill the traitors and sweep away the war hounds. Kill the traitors and sweep away the war hounds." Dozens of Griffin Knights, 500 top experts of Blood Eagle Camp, and tens of thousands of wounded soldiers of Battle Dragon Fortress were all gathered together. Their blood was stirred up by this old general, and they swore to live and die with the frontline army. This kind of scene made Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu slightly moved. Southern Xia having a good general like Dongfang Zhan was truly the fortune of Southern Xia. Young miss, let's go as well. Your injuries are too heavy, don't fight anymore. Meng Qinggu knew that Chu Tian's situation was very serious and only Chu Tian could hold on until now. If it was a normal person, they would have already fainted. Although the power Chu Tian used was strong, the side effects were very large. If he was injured now, the consequences would be hard to predict. Chu Tian pulled out his ice-cold blade. Young miss, your words aren't right. I am still the Southern Summer ruler's subordinate. Although it was forcefully conferred by that fellow Southern Summer king, since I am the ruler of the Southern Summer country, I should put in some effort, don't you think so? What else could Meng Qinggu say? Chu Tian had inexplicably become the country guarding ruler. This ruler title was even more famous than the calm martial ruler. Chu Tian was a person who pursued freedom, so he would not easily accept responsibility. But now that the heavy responsibility had been pushed onto him, Chu Tian was not a coward who would retreat. Dongfang Zhan and Gu Qianqiu, these old men over 100 years old, were charging forward, so what reason did Chu Tian have to retreat? We'll go together. Ha, ha, young miss, that's right. We'll kill him to our heart's content. After Dongfang Zhan killed Wang Tu, the Earth Dragon cavalry quickly retreated. Their task was not to fight the frontline marshal, but rather to open the pass and let the Warhound's army in. When Dongfang Zhan's troops arrived, it meant that there wasn't much time left. Dongfang Zhan would not let the traitors go. Breaking through the Battle Dragon fortress from the inside was the only path of survival for the rebel army. They were very clear on this point, so they were prepared to forcefully break through the pass at any cost. Don't give them a chance. Surround and kill them for me. Dongfang Zhan was very experienced on the battlefield. Although he had just arrived at the Battle Dragon fortress that was in a mess, he still managed to gather the several tens of thousands of elite soldiers in a short period of time. A portion was sent to the walls and a portion was personally leading the troops to suppress the rebellion. The Wang family's Battle Dragon cavalry did not have a chance because the pass was being guarded. Even with the Earth Dragon cavalry's strength, they could not break through in a short period of time. Not to mention that Dongfang Zhan was leading an aggressive army to kill them from behind. That hateful Eastern old man. You think the Battle Dragon army is afraid of you? We'll go all out against him. A few deputy generals gave the order, and the Earth Dragon cavalry turned around. The Earth Dragon cavalry was clad in superior black armor, holding a 3-meter-long custom-made lance in their hands. Their eyes were blood red, and they were crazily shouting to kill. At this moment, the plump and sturdy Earth Dragons were stimulated, and they burst out with a powerful force. The spikes and sharp blades embedded in the Earth Dragon's armor would become the Grim Reaper's harvesting weapons. Cavalry had the advantage over infantry. Not to mention the heavy armored Earth Dragon cavalry. These Earth Dragon cavalry were all at the second, and even third awakened soul layer. Even a small team leader was an illustrious soul realm expert. Their battle strength was not inferior to the Dongfang family's Bloodhawk camp and they would not lose to the Royal Palace's Royal Knights. The Earth Dragons' mouths were already releasing an incomparably hot energy. The Earth Dragons could release high-temperature flames and although it could not compare to a true dragon's breath, it could still melt steel. Even an awakened soul cultivator might not be able to block it. The space here was not wide, so Dongfang Zhan's side would suffer heavy losses. Dongfang Zhan loudly shouted, "Bloodhawk camp, cover!" The Bloodhawk cavalry's low-flying nimble figures were not something the heavy Earth Dragon cavalry could block. The Bloodhawk cavalry did not directly attack the thick-skinned Earth Dragons, rather they launched a sneak attack on the Earth Dragon cavalry. A single wave of killing would kill an entire row of Earth Dragon cavalry. Once the Earth Dragons lost control of the cavalry, they would immediately fall into chaos. At this time, Dongfang Zhan took the lead and surrounded the powerful Earth Dragon mounts. Not long later, the Earth Dragon cavalry had lost 200 people, which made the Wang family vice-generals clench their teeth in anger. Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu did not have the strength to fight in close combat, but they could ride the griffins and attack from the air with the Blood Hawk camp. Meng Qinggu picked up a source energy submachine gun and wildly fired at the Earth Dragon cavalry from 100 meters away. Normal source energy submachine guns were weaker, but their main advantage was their high rate of fire. This was Chu Tian's custom-made version, and each bullet had been strengthened. Not only were they not weaker than normal pistols, they were actually a bit stronger. It could easily pierce through the protective spirit energy of a cultivator under the Fourth Awakened Soul layer, and even a Fourth Awakened Soul layer cultivator wouldn't be able to take 2 more shots. Meng Qinggu swept out with the gun. At least 4-5 Earth Dragon cavalry were shot down. At this time, Chu Tian controlled the griffins to dive down and used its claws to tear them apart. The two of them worked together to kill several dozen griffins. Damn! If we keep fighting like this, we'll lose for sure. The vice-generals saw this and knew that their only chance of winning was to open the fort with their lives on the line. They decided to ignore Dongfang Zhan's attack and began a crazy suicidal attack. They had to open the fort. How could Dongfang Zhan let them succeed? This white-haired old general charged into the Earth Dragon cavalry formation and cut down 20 Earth Dragon cavalry in one go, finally killing a 9th Awakened Soul layer vice-general. Although he paid the price of 7-8 wounds, he became fiercer and fiercer as he fought. He was like a beast in a desperate situation. This madness was not something these people could endure. This old madman. Does he want to die with us? The Earth Dragon cavalry were all shocked by Dongfang Zhan's attitude of sacrificing 800 to injure 3,000 enemies. Their momentum became weaker and their numbers decreased. Finally, with the help of the Blood Hawk camp, the entire Earth Dragon cavalry had been cleaned up. Dongfang Zhan continued to clean up, killing all the Warhounds experts that had infiltrated in. Although the Battle Dragon fortress was temporarily saved, after several rounds of internal strife, they had suffered heavy losses and were on the verge of collapse. The battle had already been going on for 2 hours. Inside and outside, blood flowed like a river and both sides had countless casualties. Hold on. The Warhound's army can't hold on any longer. Dongfang Zhan's body was covered in blood and he was injured in several places, but he was still waving his large sword that was filled with holes as he shouted, as if his body was not his. Over half of the 500 Blood Hawk camp generals had died. This was the Dongfang family's trump card. Dongfang Zhan's heart felt like it was being cut by a knife, but if they could protect the frontline fortress, it was not a pity no matter what price they had to pay. As long as the frontline fortress was not broken, southern Xia would have the capital to counterattack. Judging from the current situation, victory was already in sight. Finally, the Warhounds blew the horn to retreat. This large army left behind over 100,000 corpses and slowly retreated like a tide. The southern summer soldiers that had been fighting for several hours all shouted out in excitement. The Warhounds had attacked for a long time, so they were finally retreating. The Warhounds' army has retreated. The Warhounds' army has finally retreated. Southern Xia has won. Long live Southern Xia. Long live the Marshal. The Warhounds' army was very chaotic. After the horn to retreat was blown, the entire army quickly retreated, falling into chaos. Banners were thrown to the ground and armor were thrown away. This scene could be described as very embarrassing. In this situation, it was almost impossible for them to launch a second wave of attacks. At this time, the cavalry that Dongfang Zhan had arranged ahead of time moved out. This was definitely a surprise attack. The Warhounds never would have thought that after the Southern Summer Army had experienced such a bloody battle, they would still send troops to chase after them. The two cavalry groups did not have many people, with each group only having 40–50,000 people. However, using troops did not depend on how many there were, it depended on using them at the right time. When the cavalry charged out of the pass, they charged through the prairie like lightning. They were like two sharp knives stabbing into the chaotic warhounds' army, wildly harvesting them like a harvesting machine. The warhounds were currently retreating. Their attack on the city had failed, so they were quickly running away. Dodging the rain of arrows from the watchtowers, they were already in a very sorry state. Their morale had dropped to a freezing point, so they only cared about running for their lives. How could they resist? This was a one-sided slaughter. In just a short while, they had killed at least 10,000 warhound soldiers. Wherever they went, there was a large pile of bloody corpses. Chu Tian couldn't help giving a praise, beautifully done. The old general was truly an experienced general. This cavalry was used at the right time. The warhounds' failure in attacking the city was already a large setback. If they could kill 80,000 people while retreating, it would be like sprinkling salt on the warhounds' wounds, making them unable to think of attacking the city a second time. This battle would be over and the warhounds would return to the prairies with their tails between their legs. Southern Xia had paid quite a large price, but the main thing was the damage to the fortress. It would only take a year to repair it and the main force of the Southern Summer Army was still there. If it wasn't for the Southern Summer King falling, this would have been a very beautiful battle. However, when everyone was thinking this, a strange change occurred that no one expected. There was a deep drum sound coming from the center of the battlefield. This kind of drum sound had never been heard before. Although it was deep, it was incomparably deep, like it was coming from the earth. The battle intent contained within was completely different from the warhounds' army's retreat. Dongfang Zhan's expression instantly changed. Retreat. Retreat. Dongfang Zhan had already left the command platform. He could not pass down his orders in this place. In just a short few seconds, there was a shocking change on the battlefield. Those different shapes and colors, as well as the messy flags, all of them suddenly disappeared. The messy horn war drums were also extinguished at this moment. In the center of the warhounds' army, a large black flag suddenly appeared. This was an orderly standing army that had not moved since the beginning of the battle. They had always been hidden in the center of the warhounds' army, but now that they had suddenly appeared, it was like a dangerous reef appearing in the middle of the ocean. This is bad. The warhounds were still holding back. They had not used their full strength and even their retreat was just an act. The enemy commander seemed to understand Dongfang Zhan's style very well, even guessing how Dongfang Zhan would deploy his troops. Dongfang Zhan did not know anything about the other side and he did not believe that there would be such a cunning leader among the warhounds. Who was the commander of this army? Where did this orderly army come from? The bad premonition in Dongfang Zhan's heart was becoming stronger and stronger. An unimaginable change had occurred in the warhounds' plains, but Southern Xia had not gathered any information about it at all. Fang King, Fang King, Fang King. The warhounds' army began to shout out in unison. This was a title that represented supreme power and status in the warhounds' plains. Each warhound soldier had a fanatical look on their faces, just like they were welcoming their emperor. Chapter 324. The messy flags of the warhounds' army disappeared at the same time and a large amount of black flags appeared in the center of the army. They looked very neat, being exactly the same. It was like a dark current was surging forward, causing the soldiers in front of them to retreat. The Southern Xia cavalry did not see the flags, but from the shouts of the surrounding warhounds, they could feel that something was wrong. Only they had already charged out, so it was too late for them to retreat now. The warhounds' kingdom's flag. When Dongfang Zhan saw the other side's flag, his eyes popped out and his face turned pale. This is the Fang King army. A new Fang King has appeared on the warhounds' plains. Chu Tian was already not unfamiliar with the Fang King title. The warhounds were mostly wolf and dog races, so they worshipped the sharp teeth of wild beasts. So on the warhounds' plains, teeth were the totem of most tribes, as well as a symbol of strength and status. It was because of this that the warhounds called the person with the highest status the Fang King. This was translated in the spirit beast language, which meant the king of a human kingdom. There was no Fang King ruling. The Warhound's planes were like scattered sand. Even the alliance did not pose a threat. Southern Xia could easily stir up conflict and make their alliance collapse in the blink of an eye. But once the Fang King was born, the Warhound's plains would once again become the Warhound's kingdom. This meant that Southern Xia would face a large calamity. After the last Fang King fell, the Warhound's plains had not had a new Fang King appear for over 100 years. The strength of the major tribes was about the same, and they were fighting over the Fang King. In just a few short months, the Warhound's plains had suddenly given birth to a Fang King. There was only one possibility. This generation's Fang King had an overwhelming strength, forcing all the tribes to obey him. Was the previous attack just the prelude? The Fang King's army had moved, but the true battle had just begun. This is bad. It's dangerous. Dongfang Zhan wanted to call back his cavalry, but it was already too late. When the Warhound's army quickly separated, a fierce black army appeared from the disorderly army. This was an army of around 100,000 people, all wearing black battle wolves, all wearing Warhound's wolf cavalry, and all wielding war horses and large blades. Weapons, equipment, and mounts, the 100,000 Warhound's wolf cavalry were the same. Every wolf rider had a black flag on their back. The design of the flag was impressively the terrifying fangs of wild beasts. This army was silent, but they emitted an aura of death, causing a terrifying murderous aura to permeate the entire battlefield. The leader of the wolf cavalry was especially eye-catching. This person was covered in dark golden scale armor, and his burly body was about 2.5 meters tall. His face was full of hideous scars, and one of them was a sword fan, which had almost cut his scalp in half. The wound was full of stitches. He held a huge golden drum, which seemed to contain unimaginable power. When he waved it casually, even the air was distorted. The most eye-catching part is, this Warhound's expert was riding a three-headed demon wolf. The three-headed demon wolf's entire body was pitch black and hairless. Its skin was rock-like, as if there were flames flowing within its body. This was a level 3 magical beast that would make one's hair stand on end. It was said that it possessed the bloodline of the prehistoric ferocious beast, the three-headed hellhound. As such, it possessed great strength. Fang King! Fang King! Fang King! The Warhounds began to wildly shout. When the two southern summer cavalry charged over, they already saw the Warhound's wolf cavalry. The aura of the three-headed demon wolf made the war horses neighed in unease and the orderly charging formation fell into chaos. Fang King! He's the Fang King! A cavalry general knew that once a large amount of cavalry began their charge, it was impossible to retreat midway. This was because the cavalry was too large and orders could not be passed on, so retreating would only result in defeat. Since it was like this, why not risk it all, charge? Kill the bandit leader. No matter how strong the Fang King was, could he block the charge of over 10,000 cavalry? With this wave of cavalry charging at high speeds, even a true spirit expert would die. The Fang King slowly raised the golden drum in his hand and the several dozen meter range was covered in energy, forming a strong energy field. When the Fang King raised his weapon high up, a small bolt of lightning shot into the sky. Following that, a large dark cloud appeared above the Fang King's head. Purple gold thunder god's drum, release your anger. When the southern summer cavalry charged over, large amounts of lightning appeared in the sky and countless bolts of lightning fell down like rain. Whether it was the cavalry or the war horses, as long as they were hit by the lightning, they would be charred black and die on the spot. The Fang King's casual attack had knocked down at least 200 southern summer elite cavalry. The other southern summer cavalry all revealed looks of shock. This person's strength far surpassed their imagination, this was not good for them. What is Malam doing? The Fang King did not place the southern summer cavalry in his eyes at all as he stared at the fortress in front of him, since you want me to personally make a move. This new Fang King raised the majestic purple gold drum high up and his cold voice echoed through the world, don't leave a single one alive, kill them all. The war drums rumbled. The silent 100,000 demon wolf cavalry received this order and they suddenly charged forward. Their speed was twice as fast as the southern summer cavalry. A blue wave and a black wave collided and the black wave seemed to be able to destroy everything, instantly submerging the southern Xia elite cavalry. This battle could not be fought. The mounts of the southern Xia cavalry were storm horses and these horses were only level 1 demon beasts. The mounts of the Warhound's kingdom were demon wolves and these demon wolves were level 2 demon beasts. These demon wolves were at least in the first awakened soul layer. This also meant that even if they didn't consider the strength of the wolf cavalry, the southern summer cavalry was facing an army of 100,000 awakened soul cultivators. With this kind of large number and this kind of terrifying scale, they had an overwhelming advantage. The demon wolves had many abilities, like bursting forward, using spirit energy to defend, or spitting out demon flames. If it was just one, it would not be considered strong, but with 100,000 of them, it was an incomparably terrifying strength. The Warhound's cavalry were mostly in the first or second awakened soul layer. This army could be considered an elite army even in the large kingdoms of the continent. The elite army of a small country like Southern Xia was not even on the same level, so it was a one-sided slaughter. Countless southern summer cavalry were pounced on by the wolves, bitten to death, and torn to shreds. The Fang King charged into the crowd with the flashing purple gold drum in his hand. Wherever the golden drum went, whether it was men or horses, they were all burnt to ashes. It was like there was no one there, no one could stop him at all. Fang King! Fang King! When the Warhound's army saw the terrifying battle strength of the Fang King's army, their morale was raised and they began to wildly counterattack the southern summer cavalry. 100,000 cavalry. This was the entire cavalry of the Great Wall Army. They were being wildly slaughtered by the Warhounds right in front of Dongfang Zhan's eyes. The hearts of the southern Xia army fell to the bottom and they fell apart. They had thought that they had won a moment ago, but they had been completely beaten black and blue by the reality in front of them. Facing this kind of crazy and powerful army, everyone felt fear in their hearts. Kill all the humans. The demon wolf cavalry tore through the southern summer cavalry like a giant black sword, stabbing straight at the frontline fortress. The southern Xia soldiers woke up like they were in a dream and the various fortress commanders began to busy themselves. Prepare to fight. We have to stop them outside the walls. At this time, the Fang King raised the purple gold thunder god's drum in his hand. Please bestow me strength. A bolt of lightning descended from the sky and landed on the purple gold drum. Kibeo raised his weapon and threw it forward, and the berserk power quickly bombarded the city gate, which had been damaged by the dazzling giant monster. In an instant, a massive hole appeared in the city gate. The southern Xia defenders were sent flying with pitiful cries. Too terrifying. The power of this weapon was simply unheard of. The Fang King's strength was enough to make people feel fear. When the Fang King broke through the city gates, the demon wolf cavalry jumped over the deep and wide moat and charged into the fortress through the gap. The southern Xia generals all shouted out in fear. The Western Front has been lost, the Western Front has been lost. Requesting reinforcements, requesting quick reinforcements. The entire fortress was filled with pitiful cries. In front of this terrifying army, the frontline defense that Southern Xia was so proud of was like a piece of paper that couldn't withstand a single blow. Dongfang Zhan angrily clenched his fist. This kind of army can't be created in a day. If the Warhound Plains had this kind of army, how could I not know about it? Where the hell did they come from? Gu Qianqiu persuaded Dongfang Zhan, Marshal, the frontline fortress can't be defended, we should immediately retreat to Imperial City. You guys leave immediately. Dongfang Zhan also knew that the moment the Fang King broke through the city gates, the frontline defense would be lost. You guys go back and warn Imperial City to immediately make preparations. Once the frontline defense is broken, the next one to be attacked will be Imperial City. Once Imperial City falls, Southern Xia will not be able to protect itself. Meng Qinggu asked, what about you, old Marshal? This old soldier has guarded the front lines for 50 years. Dongfang Zhan raised his spear and faced the charging wolf cavalry. We will fight to the last moment. Don't say any more. Southern Xia needs you. Quickly leave. The frontline fortress could not withstand another wave of attacks. Whether they were willing or not, they had to accept this result. Imperial City did not know what was happening here, so they had to bring this news back to Imperial City. Otherwise, how could Imperial City defend against this terrifying army? Chu Tian advised, the calm martial ruler is out and Imperial City needs an experienced general. I think the old general should retreat together. The Dongfang family has countless talented generals and the Nangong family has many generals. Why do we need an old soldier? Dongfang Zhan seemed like he had already made his decision. You guys don't need to say any more. This old soldier has guarded the front lines for 50 years and has already disregarded life and death. My blood and my flesh have already fused with the southern Xia country's wall. I will fight to the end for it. Chu Tian knit his brows, but Gu Qianqiu stood up. Country guarding ruler, Chairman Meng, now that things have reached this point, please respect the old general. Southern Xia still needs you. That's right. It was impossible for a person like Dongfang Zhan to retreat. Even if he knew that he would die if he stayed, for glory, for his faith, and for his promise, he would fight to the last second. Gu Qianqiu gathered the remaining griffin riders and gave a griffin to Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu. Let's go. Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu cupped their hands to Dongfang Zhan. Then they rode the griffin and followed Gu Qianqiu, leaving the frontline fortress. They had to quickly bring this news back to Imperial City, otherwise Imperial City would be in danger. At this time, the frontline fortress was filled with pitiful cries. The Southern Summer Army had suffered heavy casualties. They had already suffered heavy losses and now the Warhound's Demon Wolf Cavalry had launched a second wave of attacks. In the end, they used a quarter of an hour to break through the city gates. The Demon Wolf Army swarmed in and began a life-and-death battle with the exhausted Southern Summer Border Army. The frontline fortress still had close to 400,000 soldiers, having a large advantage in terms of numbers. However, these soldiers were very scattered and they were all very tired. At least half of their spirit energy had been consumed, so they could not gather a strong battle strength at this time. So, this battle was basically a one-sided slaughter. One Southern Summer soldier after another fell under the butcher's blade. Mountains of corpses and seas of blood, it could be called hell on earth. Dongfang Zhan gathered tens of thousands of elites in a short period of time and launched a suicidal attack on the Warhound's cavalry. Finally they managed to kill over 3,000 Demon Wolf cavalry, with a casualty ratio of 10 to 1. To Dongfang Zhan, this was enough to make him feel proud. After all, this was a strong army that a small country could not resist. The 30,000 elites by Dongfang Zhan's side had all died and there were only a few personal soldiers still fighting in a bloody battle. Southern Xia will never fall. Dongfang Zhan was covered in several wounds, with 4 arrows and a spear piercing his abdomen, but he still cut down 7 Demon Wolf cavalry, finally standing on top of a mountain of corpses. His white hair danced in the wind and he was surrounded by Demon Wolf cavalry, with the Fang King riding a 3-headed demon wolf at the very front. Dongfang Zhan gave 3 wild laughs before suddenly throwing out his spear, piercing through another 2 Demon Wolf cavalry. Pa! This spear was caught by a large hand. A wolf man riding a 3-headed demon wolf with a purple gold drum in his hand walked out. A pair of dark and cruel eyes stared right at Dongfang Zhan. Even in this situation, you still caused quite a bit of damage to my army. You are truly worthy of being one of the Southern Summer generals. The number 1 general in the Southern Summer country belongs to the calm martial ruler. What does this old soldier count for? Dongfang Zhan did not need to ask to know the other side's identity. If you weren't afraid of the calm martial ruler, why would you lead him away? If the calm martial ruler was in the imperial region, the result wouldn't be like this. It's too late to say anything now. You've lost, so surrender. The Fang King coldly said, Southern Xia will become a vassal of my Warhound's kingdom. As long as you surrender and swear loyalty to me, you will still be a famous general of the southern summer country. Dongfang Zhan's spirit energy had already been used up and he could no longer fight with this kind of serious injury. He did not even bother replying to the Fang King's words and directly pulled out the sword at his waist. There was a blood glow that came out. Dongfang Zhan stood in the ruins of the fortress. His body was covered in wounds and his white hair fluttered in the wind, but he was like a giant angrily looking north. Dongfang Zhan had killed himself. The frontline fortress had completely fallen. Chapter 325. The demonic wolf cavalry hated Dongfang Zhan, who didn't fall even after dying. This fellow had killed many warhounds warriors, and even in the situation just now, he had caused 3,000–4,000 demonic wolf cavalry casualties. Tear it to pieces. The demonic wolf cavalry wanted to tear Dongfang Zhan's corpse to pieces to vent their anger. Enough, stop. The Fang King coldly shouted, the warhounds respect true warriors and a warrior needs to be treated like a warrior, even if he is our enemy. Take his corpse and preserve it. After the battle is over, we will bury him in the southern summer country's soil. Yes. The Fang King held the highest position in the Warhounds tribe and no one dared to disobey his words. The entire battlefield was still calm and the southern Xia frontline army was already in shambles. Tens of thousands of people had already abandoned their defenses and fled, with their defeat already being irreversible. The Warhounds did not leave any prisoners. Out of the 600,000 soldiers in the Great Wall, around 400–500,000 had died and the rest had already fled. The Warhounds' army had lost 200–300,000 people, but most of them were just random soldiers. The demonic wolf cavalry's main force was still intact. First send out the pursuing troops to capture the southern Xia soldiers. The Fang King did not want to let a single southern Xia soldier go. Everyone else, start cleaning up the battlefield. Quickly adjust yourselves and continue the attack. The southern Xia people had received news of victory several days ago, but they never would have thought that this kind of nightmare would happen in a single night. After the frontline fortress was broken, Imperial City no longer had any barriers. With this terrifying army marching down, they could directly launch an attack on the unprepared royal city. Imperial City's 200,000 cavalry had been sent to Tsang State, so it was impossible for them to return in a few days. As for the remaining 500,000 soldiers in Imperial City, although there were over 1,000 Griffin Knights and the elites of the three great families, if they were to face the sudden attack of the Warhounds' army, it would be hard for them to resist. The Fang King sent out several thousand soldiers to chase after them and then began to organize the army. This battle had consumed quite a bit of energy, so they could not directly attack Imperial City for now. But there was enough time. Nothing could change in these 2 days. The calm martial ruler and the 200,000 cavalry would not return, so the Fang King was not afraid of the southern summer country launching a sneak attack. In 5 days or 10 days, once the Fang King attacked Imperial City, it would be useless even if the calm martial ruler and the 400,000 cavalry from Tsang State returned. Big brother. Malam jumped over the ruins with Wang Tianlong, landing in front of the Fang King like two phantoms. Malam's armor was broken and he seemed to be heavily injured. Malam, your performance really disappoints me. The Fang King seemed to be filled with anger. I told you to attack the stronghold from the inside, but you didn't complete this task. Because of your failure, the Warhounds' army has lost at least 100,000 soldiers and even lost 3,000 demon wolf cavalry. Malam had a look of shame. The Southern Summer King tried to take me down with him before he died. Although I was lucky enough to escape, I was still quite injured. Because I was recovering, I couldn't finish the mission in time, so I asked Big Brother to punish me. The Fang King frowned. I don't need a reason, I want results. Since you failed the mission, you should be punished. Malam steeled his heart and pulled out the black blade, chopping down on his left arm. Wang Tianlong turned pale with fright. Just one mistake, and he had to break his arm as punishment. Dang! A golden drum blocked the black blade. The Fang King coldly said, "You killing the Southern Summer King is considered a great merit, so this mistake will be recorded. The battle is not over yet and your left arm is still useful, so it won't be too late to cut it off after the battle." "Yes. Where is Chu Tian? Why don't we see his corpse?" Wang Tianlong said, "This person can fight against 1,000,000 soldiers. If we let him go, there will be endless troubles in the future." The Fang King knit his brows. "What do you mean?" Malam explained, "This is a human youth. Although he doesn't have any fame, he seems to have an extraordinary strength. Since it's like this, I'll give you a chance to atone for your crimes." The Fang King whistled and a giant blue bird appeared above everyone. "This is a thunder eagle beast, its speed is twice that of a human griffin. You will ride this beast and chase after him. Even if you can't catch him, you can't let him live." "Yes." Malam waved his hand at Wang Tianlong and the people beside him. "You all come with me." Malam rode the thunder eagle beast and the others rode vultures. They set off from the frontline fortress and began to chase after Chu Tian's group. These flying demon beasts were very fast and the warhounds were good at tracking, so it was easy to find their aura, so it was not hard to catch up to them. Malam felt the other side's aura after chasing for an hour, but the other side seemed to have sensed that they were being chased. The group suddenly scattered and went in different directions. "Their auras are scattered, we should also scatter." Malam ordered the others, "I'll go catch Chu Tian and you chase the rest." "Understood." Malam and the others spread out in pursuit. Several minutes ago, Chu Tian, Gu Qianqiu, Meng Qinggu, and several dozen Griffin Knights were heading in the direction of Imperial City. The frontline fortress had suffered a crushing defeat in southern Xia, but Imperial City had not fallen yet, so there was still hope for a comeback. The little fox had been observing the divine eye for a while, but it suddenly anxiously gestured to Chu Tian. "We're in trouble. The warhounds have sent at least several thousand pursuers and there are several that have already caught up to us." Chu Tian said to the others, "They are very fast and we are too big of a target, it will be hard for us to escape. We can only split up and try our luck like this. In short, we have to report back to Imperial City as soon as possible." Gu Qianqiu said through gritted teeth. "They could only do this. I'll be in a group with the young miss, you guys take care." Gu Qianqiu was heavily injured, so even if he followed Chu Tian, he might not be able to protect him. It was better to split up and make it hard for the warhounds to lock onto him. "Scatter." Everyone scattered at the same time. They all began to scatter by themselves. Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu moved together. After all, the two of them were riding on a griffin. Meng Qinggu's cultivation was not high and Chu Tian had overdrawn his strength, so they could take care of each other. In the end, the two of them didn't go far. "Gee, gee." The little fox anxiously called out. It was warning Chu Tian that the first group of pursuers had already locked onto the two of them. Meng Qinggu found a large black dot in the sky, which was a group of warhounds riding vultures. There were many of them, around 20 of them, and they were all elites of the warhounds tribe, with most of them being illustrious Soul Realm experts. This was the first group of pursuers sent by the Fang King. They had locked onto Chu Tian earlier than Malam, so they met first. Meng Qingwu's heart sank. The warhounds tribe had caught up. The warhounds tribe leader loudly shouted, "Kill them. It's just a few small fish, young miss, there's no need to panic." Chu Tian endured the tearing pain of his body and took out a source energy submachine gun from his gourd. He put in a normal magazine and took out the netherworld sword from his back. "Stand behind me. It will be very bumpy later, so you have to hold on tight." Meng Qingwu's heart was filled with bitterness. This fellow was clearly an arrow at the end of its flight, but he still wanted to protect her. Meng Qingwu was facing this life and death situation, but she couldn't do anything. She felt very uneasy and guilty in her heart. "Young miss, we are grasshoppers on the same rope, so you don't need to think too much. You and I are destined to cross this calamity together, so no one should think about leaving first. But to be honest, I am very honored." Meng Qingwu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. at this time, what are you honored for? Because although I wasn't born on the same day as the young miss, I could die on the same day as the young miss. Look, our fates are linked together, this is truly a match made in heaven. Pay. Who wants to die together with you? Chu Tian really, he was still in the mood to joke around at this time. But being like this by Chu Tian, Meng Qinggu felt the uneasiness in her heart lessen by a lot. They're here. The Warhound's air cavalry quickly charged forward and the Warhound's soldiers began to shoot arrows. A large wave of arrows rained down on the two of them and there were just too many of them. It was not hard for Chu Tian to protect himself and he could protect the young miss, but the problem was that most of the arrows were aimed at the griffin. The griffin was this big, so how could it defend every position? Chu Tian used his divine sense to lock onto the arrows and used the netherworld sword to send out sword chi to cut down the arrows, accurately protecting the griffin. Once the griffin was killed, the two of them would not have a means of transportation. When would they be able to reach Imperial City? Chu Tian did not have any spirit energy and now he had to protect the mount with all these Warhounds experts, he was stretched thin. The Warhound's air cavalry captain found a flaw and while Chu Tian was busy protecting the griffin, he suddenly drew his bow and shot an incomparably strong arrow at Chu Tian's heart. This is bad. Chu Tian's divine sense could see this attack, but this person's archery skills were very high. Chu Tian could not attend to this and if he dodged the arrow, the griffin would be killed. If he did not dodge the arrow, this arrow would be very dangerous. It was at this critical moment. Meng Qinggu suddenly jumped out and blocked the arrow for Chu Tian. That arrow filled with spirit energy fell onto Meng Qinggu's right leg and the wild energy pierced through the starlight immortal body, deeply stabbing into Meng Qinggu's thigh. Meng Qinggu's eyes turned black and she almost fell off the griffin's back. Young miss. Chu Tian quickly grabbed Meng Qinggu. Meng Qinggu loudly shouted, "Be careful." The Warhound's commander took this chance to charge forward with his spear. That spear glow was filled with spirit energy, so this person was at least a peak 6th awakened soul layer expert. If it was a fair fight, Chu Tian would not have placed him in his eyes, but he did not have the strength to do so. But that did not mean that Chu Tian was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Chu Tian raised the submachine gun in his left hand and pulled the trigger, releasing a large amount of light bullets into the sky. The Warhounds had never seen source energy weapons before and the several light bullets all hit their targets. Some hit the vultures and some hit the Warhounds experts, but the high temperature was enough to melt steel. The vultures were instantly fatally injured and the Warhounds captain gave a pitiful cry as he fell off his mount. Chu Tian shot at the other Warhounds pursuing him. With several pitiful cries, another 2 vultures fell from several hundred meters in the air. Several Warhound soldiers put down their bows and pulled out their close combat weapons to surround him without any fear of death. Chu Tian's source energy submachine gun had run out of energy and he did not have time to reload, so he could only send out a sword chi to push back 2 of them. The other one had already approached the griffin and stabbed his spear into the griffin's abdomen, creating a terrifying wound. "Ao!" The griffin gave a pitiful cry as it lost its balance. Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu were almost thrown out. Damn! Meng Qinggu took Chu Tian's submachine gun and reloaded it. That terrifying source energy bullet easily shattered their armor and instantly melted several Warhound soldiers with large holes. Young miss, good shot. There were still several dozen Warhounds airborne cavalry, but there were too many of them. With their close range and long range attacks, not to mention that Chu Tian's strength was greatly reduced, even in a normal situation, it would be hard for him to gain an advantage in this kind of aerial battle. So, a blade quickly slashed at the griffin's neck. The injured griffin finally could not hold on any longer and its body suddenly flipped over, falling down from the sky. This is bad. The 2 of them were thrown into the air and instantly lost their center of gravity, falling down at the same time. After losing their mounts, the 2 of them could not move in the air. The Warhound's airborne cavalry charged forward, attempting to tear the 2 of them apart. Chapter 326. Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu were over 300-400 meters in the air, falling down in a free fall. Their ears were filled with the sound of wind and the ground was getting closer and closer. Falling from this height, even if one had a body as hard as steel, their internal organs would still be damaged. What was even more dangerous was that the Warhound's soldiers riding on the vultures did not plan on letting them go. So when the two of them fell, the vultures surrounded them and tried to tear them apart with their sharp claws. Scram! Chu Tian's sword chi cut open the belly of a vulture and large amounts of blood and internal organs were released. Chu Tian suddenly heard Meng Qinggu's cry of shock, and when he turned around, Meng Qinggu had already been caught by a vulture. The vulture had actually stabbed its spear at Meng Qinggu's body, but it was a good thing that this vulture soldier's cultivation was not high and its spear could not pierce through Meng Qinggu's starlight barrier. Meng Qinggu grabbed the spear and threw the soldier down. Chu Tian had no choice but to throw the netherworld sword and grab it in his hand. The treasure sword turned into a stream of light as it pierced through the vulture's body. The vulture gave a pitiful cry as it was killed. The netherworld sword released energy and the blue and white flame crows flew into the air. Even the vultures and the riders were ignited by the terrifying abyss netherworld flame. This huge ball of flame then transformed into a humanoid figure. It was impressively the image of a demon. Netherworld. Kill them. Yes, Master. The demon Netherworld was an elemental being, it could fly even without wings. It was like a meteor as it charged at the vulture riders. There were 6-7 blooming flames in the sky. Chu Tian held the netherworld sword that had lost its spirit and fell down with Meng Qinggu. Putong! Putong! Two large sounds came from a lake that was as flat as a mirror on the prairie. The two of them almost instantly sank to the bottom of the water. If they were ordinary people, their internal organs would have been shattered and they would have died. Chu Tian came into close contact with a rock at the bottom of the lake. The rock was smashed into pieces, but Chu Tian's head was fine. However, he felt a wave of dizziness. He quickly calmed himself down, kicked the bottom of the lake, and quickly floated up. He saw Meng Qinggu struggling in front of him. The young mistress did not seem to be very good at swimming. Moreover, there was an arrow wound on her thigh, so she could not move for a while. Chu Tian quickly swam over and wrapped his arms around Meng Qinggu's waist. The two of them emerged from the water together. Phew! Meng Qinggu and Chu Tian gasped for breath. Meng Qinggu quickly asked with concern, "Are you okay?" "My life is very tough." "Of course I'm fine. How is eldest miss? Are your injuries heavy?" In order to express his concern, Chu Tian used his hands to examine the young miss's body. When he finally touched her thigh, he used his spirit energy to break the arrow. "We need to go ashore to take care of the wound." Meng Qinggu had been taken advantage of by Chu Tian, but she was too lazy to say anything at this moment. The little fox swam over from the water and brought the netherworld sword in its mouth to Chu Tian. Chu Tian held the netherworld sword and thanked the little fox. The demon netherworld was still fighting with the warhounds in the sky. Although the battle would not end in a while, it could stop the vulture cavalry from attacking the two of them, so it was the best time for the two of them to go ashore. Chu Tian held the young mist's soft body and held the netherworld sword in his other hand. He controlled the spirit energy in his body and suddenly kicked off in the water. It was like he had hit an engine and he quickly swam to the shore. The little fox suddenly gave a warning. There was a large amount of dead wood floating on the surface of the small lake. When one looked carefully, they were shocked to find that these were not dead wood, they were clearly giant alligators that were over 5 meters long. A small part of their bodies floated on the surface, so it looked like several dozen pieces of dead wood. Damn, these are blue-patterned alligators. These alligators were high-level 1 water-attributed demon beasts. They could display some water-attributed abilities and had the strength of an 8th to 9th body refinement layer cultivator. In his normal state, Chu Tian would not care about them, but the current Chu Tian was not only very weak, his spirit energy was almost used up and he did not have the strength to fight anymore. There were many alligators, there were at least over 100 of them. At this moment, it was enough to pose a fatal threat to the two of them. Meng Qinggu said in a panic, "What do we do? What can we do? Run!" The two who had fallen into the water had clearly invaded the territory of these highly territorial magical beasts. Moreover, it seemed that these fellows did not have a good temper. At this moment, they were rapidly surging towards the two humans and one beast. Dark blue runes lit up on the skin of each of the crocodiles as they instilled power into the surrounding lake water from their bodies. The entire lake seemed to be boiling in an instant. Chu Tian could feel a strong water-attributed energy that wrapped around him like a giant python. The alligators wanted to bind him and make him lose his ability to resist before tearing him apart. Chu Tian's long sword swept out with a fierce sword chi, instantly breaking through the surrounding binding energy. It also cut the two alligators in half. Other than angering the demon beasts even more, it did not have any effect on their current situation. "This is bad, there are too many demon beasts in the water." Meng Qinggu anxiously shouted, "If you bring me along, you won't be able to leave. Don't worry about me, just leave." Meng Qinggu was in the peak 5th awakened soul layer. This kind of strength was not weak. At least in the Southern Xia army, she could be a high-level general. But Meng Qinggu did not have a battle-type source spirit, so she was not suited for most battle cultivation techniques and martial arts. In other words, other than the defensive Starlight Immortal Body cultivation technique, she did not have any other skills. Meng Qinggu's battle strength was very weak, especially in this kind of situation, she could only drag them down. If Chu Tian brought Meng Qinggu, their chances of escaping would be even smaller. "You want to stop me with just these few beasts?" Chu Tian released his spirit energy and suddenly moved forward. He felt 1,000 gene of resistance with every inch he moved forward. After cutting down several more alligators, he continued to bring Meng Qinggu forward. The water around them began to churn even more violently as the giant alligators charged at the two of them. "Young miss, take this." Chu Tian gave the source energy submachine gun to Meng Qinggu. He and Meng Qinggu were hugging each other and Chu Tian was responsible for sweeping the front. "You cover my back." At this time, several giant crocodiles attacked Chu Tian from behind. The young miss quickly grabbed the gun and pulled the trigger. A stream of light bullets shot out and instantly created a large amount of steam on the surface of the lake. The giant crocodiles' incomparably tough skin was instantly burned with a large hole and their bodies were pierced through. Too good. With the source energy submachine gun in hand, these giant alligators would not be able to get close. Meng Qinggu seemed like she had found her value and immediately fired at the surrounding giant alligators. When these high-temperature energy bullets passed through the lake, they created large amounts of steam that finally landed on the giant alligators. The source energy submachine gun's high firing speed and killing power was displayed at this time. The two of them finally escaped danger and slowly swam towards the shore. "I don't have any bullets, quickly give me a magazine." "Fuck, can't you use it sparingly?" "I don't have any left." Meng Qinggu was shocked. "Then what do we do?" Chu Tian took out a source energy pistol and gave it to her. "We only have this left, so we'll just have to make do with it." This pistol's firing speed was too slow and there were too many demon beasts. How could they kill them all? But now that things had reached this point, they could only do this. It was a good thing that Chu Tian's weapons had been specially modified. This source energy pistol's energy bullets were enough to easily pierce through an illustrious soul realm cultivator's protective spirit energy. A single shot was enough to kill one. Only as more and more crocodiles were killed, these demon beasts became more and more angry. They became even more hysterical as they attacked the two of them. Chu Tian didn't have much spirit energy left and now he was on the verge of exhaustion. Even the Starlight Immortal Body couldn't support it anymore. Once the Starlight Immortal Body was broken, then Chu Tian would die without a doubt. These demon beasts could easily crush a human's weak body. I really can't move." Finally, the spirit energy in Chu Tian's body was almost completely used up. He was at least 200 meters away from the other side of the river. This was not a problem for an awakened soul cultivator, but for Chu Tian, it was the distance between life and death. "Young miss, we might not be able to swim up." Chu Tian had a tired expression. "Are you afraid?" Meng Qinggu looked at Chu Tian's pale face and suddenly had a very moved feeling. This fellow was usually carefree, but in this critical moment, he was protecting her with his life, not giving up until the last moment. "If you're not afraid, then what would I be afraid of? At worst we'll just die together. Young miss, please take this and hold it tightly." Chu Tian placed a sword sheath into Meng Qinggu's hand. Without waiting for her to speak, he took the initiative to ask, "I actually have a question I want to ask you." Meng Qinggu had a stunned expression as she said, "What do you want to ask?" Chu Tian seriously said, "Ying once told me that the man the young miss likes has to be an indomitable hero or a great sage that saves the country. Do you think I'm that kind of person?" "What meaning is there in asking this?" "Of course there is a meaning. Quickly tell me, let me be a ghost that understands." Alright, alright. You are, that's fine. But there's no chance, we're all going to die." Chu Tian revealed a satisfied smile. He suddenly thrust the netherworld sword forward, stabbing it into the sword sheath in Meng Qinggu's hand. He pushed the rest of his spirit energy in and the energy exploded in the water. That strong force directly pushed Meng Qinggu's body. No! Meng Qinggu was pushed by the netherworld sword and flew into the air, landing on the shore. She watched as Chu Tian used the last of his strength and slowly sank into the water in exhaustion. The surrounding giant alligators surrounded him, launching a final wave of attacks. Chu Tian. Chu Tian. I don't belong to this place, I should be satisfied after playing for this long. Chu Tian raised his right hand to make a victory sign, "You sisters should live on." When Chu Tian sank into the water, countless alligators wildly charged forward. There was only a splash of water, it was clear they were being attacked by a group of alligators. "No! Quickly come out!" Meng Qinggu powerlessly kneeled on the ground. She did not have the joy of surviving, rather she was filled with deep guilt and pain. Chapter 327. When the crocodiles were about to tear Chu Tian to pieces, a ripple appeared in the lake and a strong pressure covered the surface of the lake. The giant crocodiles were filled with incomparable fear. It was like a powerful ancient demon beast had appeared and its aura was even more shocking than a dragon's aura. A snow-white figure emerged from the lake. It was a full 10 to 30 feet tall, and its entire body was spotless. Its snow-white fur was as smooth as silk, and it was as translucent as white jade. Its eyes were dark green like top-grade jadeite. This was a two-tailed white demon fox. When the giant crocodiles felt the white fox's aura, they all ran away in panic. The demon fox's green eyes suddenly lit up and an invisible spiritual energy spread in all directions. Almost in an instant, hundreds of giant crocodiles stopped moving. Their bodies froze for a few seconds, and then their eyes lit up with a strange green light. All of them turned into marionettes and pounced on each other and began to bite each other. Meng Qinggu watched in disbelief as over 100 giant crocodiles killed each other. Blood dyed the surface of the lake red. That white demon fox sank to the bottom of the lake and picked up Chu Tian before quickly jumping onto the shore. It shook off the water droplets on its fur and then its body quickly shrank. From a majestic two-tailed demon fox, it turned back into a cute little fox. The little fox gave a sneeze. Its two eyes revealed a look of exhaustion. It was a good thing he awakened his transformation ability at this critical moment, otherwise his master would have failed miserably this time. Little fox, good job. Meng Qinggu threw herself at Chu Tian and her hands kept slapping his face. How are you? Wake up. Quickly wake up for me. Chu Tian's eyelids felt as heavy as lead. There was a warm and soft hand patting his face and at the same time, a familiar voice called out to him. It was sometimes far away and sometimes right in front of him. Was it the young miss? So he wasn't dead yet. Meng Qinggu saw Chu Tian's eyelids move slightly. He finally reacted. She was relieved. I knew that a scourge like you wouldn't die so easily. Meng Qinggu leaned over and grabbed his shoulder and shook it hard. Irresponsible bastard, do you think I will thank you for doing this? How do you want me to go back and face Ying? You made me suffer and feel guilty for the rest of my life. I will hate you for the rest of my life. Get up. Meng Qingwu's mood was very complicated. She was happy and sad, angry and touched. This guy liked to play the hero, but had he ever thought about her feelings? Did he think about Ying again? No matter what, he couldn't die, he couldn't die. Miracle Commerce needed him, Ying needed him, Meng Qingwu also needed him. Alright, stop swaying. Even if I'm not bitten to death by the magical beasts, I'll still die from your swaying. Chu Tian weakly said. When he slowly opened his eyes and saw Meng Qingwu, he suddenly opened his eyes wide, big, big, big. What big? Don't tell me you've become stupid. Meng Qingwu saw two eyes staring at her, so she looked over at Chu Tian's eyes in a puzzled manner. Meng Qingwu's eyes suddenly froze and her face turned red. At this moment, Meng Qingwu's two slender legs were spread apart and she was in a very ambiguous position, leaning over Chu Tian's body. Her face was not even a centimeter away from Chu Tian. In this position, according to the laws of gravity, the two magnificent peaks on Meng Qingwu's chest were very prominent. Looking down from her collar, one could see everything. A drop of water fell down from Meng Qingwu's slender white neck, flowing down to her snow-white peaks before finally falling into a bottomless ravine. Several strands of black hair fell down, contrasting against her milky white skin. Ah! Meng Qingwu was startled and wanted to stand up, but she used too much force and felt a splitting pain in her right leg. Probably because it affected her wound, Meng Qingwu fell back down again. Chu Tian felt as if two towering mountains were pressing down on his chest, almost forcing his soul out. Two soft and fragrant lips were right on his mouth. Little Fox immediately covered her eyes. Meng Qingwu's beautiful eyes widened, and Chu Tian's face was full of disbelief. Damn, my chastity. No way, I didn't know that this miss was such a fierce woman. Just because I saved her life, she took the initiative to give me a kiss and hug. Is she going to repay me with her body? If I don't respond to Miss's behavior, I wouldn't be a man. Chu Tian took the opportunity to hug Miss and give her a fierce bite. Meng Qingwu's mind instantly went blank. She subconsciously didn't resist, or perhaps there was an unspeakable excitement and anticipation in her heart. Miss, you're too despicable. You actually took advantage of me when I was weak and used this kind of forceful method to steal my first kiss. Chu Tian looked at Miss in horror, like an innocent girl who had been violated by a sex fiend. Meng Qingwu came back to her senses. When she saw Chu Tian's reaction, she almost fainted. It was obviously you, Missy, let's be reasonable, okay? I can't even move now. You were the one who hugged me and kissed me. Are you going to be irresponsible and accuse me instead? I didn't. Pay. Meng Qingwu felt that these words were inappropriate. Even the normally calm and steady her was flustered at this moment. Don't speak nonsense. Chu Tian confidently said, I don't care that much. Since I've done it, I have to admit it. Although your temper is a bit fierce, since it's like this, I can only accept my bad luck. I'll just accept you. I'm ignoring you. Meng Qingwu was so angry that she didn't care about her leg injury as she limped away. She didn't even take a few steps before she fell down again. Chu Tian saw that the young Miss' injury was not light, so he stopped teasing her. He picked up the netherworld sword on the side and gently slashed at the sky. A blue light fell onto the blade and the weapon spirit returned to the weapon. Those vultures had all been killed. Chu Tian sheathed the sword and immediately went to support the young miss. Let me see your injury. No. This was not up to you. Chu Tian directly supported her to sit on the ground. Although Meng Qingwu's mouth was protesting, her body did not resist at all. Chu Tian tore open his pants, revealing a snow-white thigh. There was a dark red wound in the middle, but Meng Qingwu had already used her spirit energy to seal the blood vessels, so there was no blood loss. It really is a poison arrow. Chu Tian gently pressed down on the young Miss' injury. The poison has entered the bone. If we use Southern Xia's treatment methods, you won't be able to keep your leg. Meng Qingwu's body trembled in fright. Was it really that serious? Chu Tian gave a laugh, but you don't need to worry, this poison is completely different from the one used on the Southern Summer King. As long as the poison is controlled, I have a way to treat it and there won't be any side effects. While they were talking, Chu Tian took out a level 2 deciphering pill that he had personally refined and poured it into his mouth. The pill melted in his mouth and Chu Tian spat it onto the wound. Then he gently massaged the surrounding area, letting the medicinal liquid seep into the wound. Meng Qingwu could clearly feel that the pain was gradually decreasing. When she saw Chu Tian meticulously treating her, her expression eased up a bit. Chu Tian bandaged Meng Qingwu's wound and without even asking for her opinion, he directly carried Meng Qingwu on his back. Meng Qingwu was a bit panicked. What are you doing? You can't walk for now with this leg injury. Chu Tian carried Meng Qingwu to the south. The Warhounds tribe must still have pursuers. If we are caught by another wave, we will be dead for sure. We need to hurry to a safe place. Meng Qingwu was a bit resistant. She had never been this intimate with a man before, other than the accident that just happened. But Meng Qingwu was not an unreasonable person. After hesitating for a few seconds, she stretched out her arms and wrapped them around Chu Tian's neck. She closed her eyes and allowed this fellow to carry her forward. Feeling the young Miss' body like this was a very wonderful thing. However, Chu Tian's current condition was very bad. There was no place on his body that wasn't in pain and he was not in the mood to enjoy his luck with women. Meng Qingwu was quietly lying on Chu Tian's body. The two of them did not say a word at this time, but Meng Qingwu could clearly feel Chu Tian's weak pulse and his increasingly rapid breathing. He must have reached his limit and was only forcefully holding on with his shocking willpower. Meng Qingwu's heart was sour, not feeling good at all. Chu Tian was in this kind of condition, but he still acted like nothing was wrong. He was even deliberately angering her, but it was most likely to divert her attention. Chu Tian, let me ask you. Meng Qingwu asked in Chu Tian's ear, between me and Yingying, who do you think is better? Chu Tian felt the young Miss' breath on his ear, making him feel very comfortable. However, this question made Chu Tian choke quite a bit. That unprecedented tone made Chu Tian's heart tremble. Why are you asking this question? You sisters are not the same type, how can I compare? Then I'll change the method. I'm saying if, between me and Yingying, you could choose one to marry as your wife, who would you choose? Chu Tian could clearly feel that when the young Miss asked this question, her heart was beating faster. What kind of question was this? Could it be a hint? He really couldn't be careless. Can't I marry both? Io, why are you pinching me? Meng Qingwu fiercely said, you can only choose one. The young Miss' question was too tricky. Chu Tian had the best relationship with Yingying, this was something the young Miss couldn't compare to. But if he chose Yingying in front of the young Miss, wouldn't that hurt the young Miss' heart? Women were very complicated creatures, no matter how contradictory they were, deep in their hearts, they would want to choose her. But if he chose the young Miss, wouldn't he be letting down Yingying? The young Miss loved her little sisters so much, she would most likely express her opinion. This question was really hard for people to decide. Meng Qingwu said with a disdainful smile, is this question that hard to answer? You men really are eating from the bowl while looking at the pot. I'm wronged. I haven't eaten yet. At most I'm looking at the pot and staring at the food that hasn't entered the pot yet. You. Alright, I know the young Miss wants to make it hard for me, Chu Tian scratched his head. If I have to give an answer, then I'll choose the young miss. Meng Qingwu's body slightly trembled. She was satisfied with this answer, but also dissatisfied. She kicked Chu Tian and said with a snort, "Why? Isn't Ying good enough? This wife needs to share a lot of work. Ying is so stupid, how could she help me manage the company? So the young miss is the most suitable. As for Ying, you only said she could have one wife, you didn't say she couldn't have a concubine. Anyways, that girl doesn't care about status, right? You have no conscience. I'll kick you to death." Alright, then I'll choose Ying. I don't want a fierce wife. Io, why are you kicking me again? Then I don't want either of them. What, you're still kicking me, what do you want me to do? Meng Qingwu felt a bit embarrassed, she seemed to have overreacted. The two of them were silent for a while. If me and Ying end up benefiting you, will you find another woman? What do you mean? Forgive my stupidity, I don't understand. Don't pretend you don't understand. Nangong, Kaidai, Yunyao. Even Big Sister Bing, they are all 1 in 10,000 outstanding women, do you dare pat your chest and guarantee you won't harm them? I don't believe you can say this kind of thing. To be honest, I really don't have any thoughts. Chu Tian shrugged his shoulders, but since the young miss has no confidence in me, you won't believe me no matter what I say. Since it's like this, I might as well admit that I'm a person of universal love. It's also good to plan ahead. Fickle big radish, I'll kick you to death. Chu Tian finally saw it. The young miss was normally a sensible person, but when she made a scene, she was even worse than Nangong Yun. It really made people look at her in a new light. Anyways, on the way here, Chu Tian's butt was almost swollen from being kicked. But playing with the young miss, Chu Tian felt much more relaxed. Chapter 328. The two of them walked noisily until dusk. The prairie at night was filled with danger and the two of them were injured. For safety's sake, they found a safe little forest to rest in. Chu Tian swallowed a few more pills and began to heal his injuries. As expected, he was in a terrible state. Because he had overused his strength, he had damaged many of his meridians, and because he had overdrawn his strength during the battle, his vitality had been damaged. This was the most serious injury Chu Tian had suffered since he arrived in this era. He wouldn't be able to recover even after 10-15 days. The most troublesome thing was that if it wasn't treated in time, there would be repercussions that would cause irreparable damage to his body. Meng Qingwu placed a heated can in front of Chu Tian. Eat it. This was made from level 2 demon beast meat. When an awakened soul cultivator's body was weak, they only needed to eat this can to recover most of their strength. Meng Qingwu looked around. Where's the little fox? It's cleaning up the aura we left behind. Chu Tian ate the can in 2-3 bites and the healing pill began to show its effects, making his body feel a bit more comfortable. The warhounds are made up of wolf tribe spirit beasts and the wolf tribe is famous for being good at tracking. If it wasn't for the little fox cleaning up the aura, we would have been attacked many times already. Meng Qingwu was very curious about the little fox's origin. This little fellow is not simple, it has a strong potential and strength. When I saw it transform today, its aura was very familiar to me, it was very similar to an ancient great desolate demonic beast. Great desolate demonic beast? Chu Tian knew the young miss abilities. The heavenly book source spirit contained a large amount of knowledge and memories, so as long as it was stimulated, it would awaken. Even Chu Tian didn't know about the little fox's origin, so how could Meng Qingwu know? Demonic beasts and demon beasts sounded similar, but there was actually a large difference. Most demonic beasts had high intelligence and were good at using strange demonic techniques. This was very similar to the little fox's abilities, so it was very possible that the little fox was a demonic beast. Chu Tian asked, "How much do you know?" "Not too much, the inherited memories in my source spirit don't have much information on this." Meng Qinggu pondered for a few minutes and said, legend has it that in the early days of the primordial chaos, there was a kind of primordial demon race that coexisted with gods and demons. Among these demon race leaders, there was a most famous and powerful existence. It was unpredictable, but its original body was a nine-tailed demon fox. Nine-tailed demon fox. Chu Tian remembered what happened in the Central State Trial Tower. Could the little fox be the descendant of that great ancient demon? If it was a descendant of the demon race, then it could be explained why the little fox could use so many strange demonic techniques. Meng Qinggu shook her head. I can't be sure, but the little fox's background is definitely not that simple. Chu Tian was deep in thought. The little fox's body was a nine-tailed fox monster and Chu Tian's source spirit was the nine-eyed demon god. What was the relationship between the two? Was it a coincidence that they met? 9 was the extreme number, it represented supremacy. Chu Tian shook his head and did not think too much about it. No matter what the little fox's background was, it was still an infant at most and did not have any strength. The great ancient demon beasts had an incomparably long lifespan and it would take tens of thousands of years to reach adulthood. How could a human raise it with their short lifespan? Perhaps Chu Tian pursuing the path of immortality was the only way out. In the silent night, the darkness stretched as far as the eye could see. The cold of the midnight and the sense of danger was like an invisible hand that shrouded the two of them at all times. Meng Qinggu was worried about the war hounds, but she was even more afraid of the demon beasts hunting on the prairies, so she did not dare sleep. At this time, a hand patted Meng Qinggu's shoulder. Don't worry, the little fox is nearby. If anything approaches, it will not be able to escape the little fox's vigilance, so you can rest in peace. Meng Qinggu was indeed very tired. She gently leaned against Chu Tian's shoulder and closed her eyes to fall asleep. Chu Tian continued to heal his injuries. Actually, this could be considered a blessing in disguise. Chu Tian had gone beyond his limits and although it was a large injury to his body, it had stimulated his potential. If his injuries could be healed this time, Chu Tian's cultivation would increase by a large amount and it would not be impossible for him to step into the true soul realm. When there was a glimmer of light in the eastern sky, Chu Tian came out of his meditative state. After taking a few saint pills with him, although they couldn't completely repair his injuries, they were able to greatly alleviate them. At the very least, his overdrawn spirit energy would recover a bit and he would be able to fight, no longer needing to worry about the demon beasts of the prairie. Meng Qinggu was leaning against his shoulder, breathing evenly, already dead asleep. He gently pushed Meng Qinggu. Young miss, it's almost dawn, wake up. At this moment, Meng Qinggu's entire body was leaning against Chu Tian's body and her two hands were tightly holding onto Chu Tian's arm. Her beautiful face was covered in dirt, but it did not lose any of its charm and instead became even more charming. The young Miss Beauty could be described as 360 degrees without any blind spots. Ah! Meng Qinggu woke up with a start, feeling a little embarrassed. She originally wanted to rest for a while, but just by leaning on Chu Tian's body, his aura made her feel peaceful, and she actually unknowingly fell asleep. What was going on? Meng Qinggu couldn't help but have goosebumps. She had always been an independent and sharp person since she was young. Furthermore, Meng Qinggu's vigilance was very heavy. Other than her younger sister, she would always have a trace of basic vigilance in her heart. Even if she was sleeping at home, it was impossible for her to sleep so deeply. Could it be that deep in her heart, she already had a deep trust in the fellow in front of her? This feeling made Meng Qinggu feel a bit conflicted and confused, not knowing what to do. Let's quickly leave. Chu Tian did not pay attention to the young Miss' complex psychological changes. When he got up, he saw Meng Qinggu sitting on the ground and said with a puzzled expression, "Young miss, what are you doing? Let's go. I'm an injured person, how can I walk with my leg like this?" Meng Qinggu said confidently and even had a bit of a spoiled feeling, "It's not like you're carrying me. When you were sleeping, I used my spirit energy to disperse the poison in your bones." Now its healing is pretty good and your injury is basically under control. This leg can be considered saved and you can walk. Chu Tian said in a snappy manner, you still want to kick my butt? Save it. Meng Qinggu found that her thigh had been bandaged and the pain from the wound was no longer like before. Her face instantly turned hot and she wished she could dig a hole in the ground. At the same time, she fiercely cursed Chu Tian in her heart. This blockhead. Letting you carry me was letting you take advantage of me, but you actually refused? Angering me to death. The fox led the way as the two of them headed towards the south. After one or two life and death experiences, the young miss had opened up her heart and the two of them had become much closer. But strangely, the closer they got, the harder it was to see the young miss. This normally dignified, beautiful, cautious, and intelligent female merchant actually had a side that no one knew about. Sometimes she was bold, sometimes she was cute, and sometimes she was emotional. This woman, it was really hard to understand. The facts proved that the adjustment last night was correct. The two of them had recovered quite well, so their speed had increased. After several hours of rushing, they were less than 500 miles away from Imperial City. This place was already within Imperial City's sphere of influence, so it was relatively safe. Those pursuers riding vultures should not be able to catch up. Chu Tian looked into the distance. There are Imperial City patrols nearby or Imperial City scouts. As long as we can find someone, we can get a fast horse or a beast carriage. Then it will be much easier. The young miss gave a sigh, I hope so. This kind of high-speed movement consumes spirit energy and physical strength. Physical strength was very precious right now, so it was best to save as much as possible. It was best to have a fast horse. But when the two of them were about to let out a sigh of relief, the little fox suddenly cried out in alarm, Gee, gee. A loud sound came from the sky, just like a thunderclap. There was nothing in the sky before, but now there was a giant blue hawk. It was around 20 feet long and 40 feet wide. Each feather seemed like it was carved from blue crystals and there were arcs of lightning around it. This was clearly a very strong demon beast. Be careful. Chu Tian suddenly jumped onto Meng Qinggu beside him. A bolt of lightning flashed across the ground, creating a giant scorch mark. When the two of them felt this power, their hearts filled with fear. This Thunder Hawk's strength was at least in the peak 9th awakened soul layer. The little fox bared its teeth and its originally black eyes suddenly turned a demonic green. Its small body suddenly swelled and it instantly turned into a 20-foot-tall demonic fox. After the little fox transformed, the demonic green light in its eyes became even stronger. The Thunder Hawk in the sky gave a painful cry and a green light appeared in the depths of the hawk's eyes. The green light quickly expanded and finally covered the entire pupil. Gee! The Thunder Eagle beast let out a sharp cry and suddenly calmed down from its anxious state. Its thoughts had clearly been controlled by the little fox, but the Thunder Eagle beast was too strong. Although the little fox could control it, it was very hard to control its movements, so the Thunder Eagle beast seemed to be frozen. Interesting, interesting. This Thunder Hawk is at least in the peak 9th awakened soul layer. To be able to control its thoughts, your spirit beast is not simple. Meng Qinggu now found that there was a spirit beast standing on the back of the Thunder Hawk. This person had a tall and sturdy figure, with a simple black blade in his hand. His body was filled with a strong power that seemed like it came from the netherworld. Nether Flame Blade Malam. The War Hound's tribe's true spirit expert. His arrival was like a messenger from Nether Prison, making people tremble in fear. Malam was not in a rush to make a move and looked at them with a ridiculing gaze. Your aura hiding skills are not bad, making this sir search for an entire night. If it wasn't for you revealing your tracks this morning, even I would not have been able to find you. Wasting this much of my time, have you thought about what price you should pay? Chapter 329. They still couldn't escape this misfortune in the end? Now that they were about to enter Imperial City's territory, they never thought that a true spirit realm expert would personally chase after them. How could Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu resist a true spirit realm expert? The little fox was tied down by the Thunder Hawk, so it couldn't help them at this moment. Cripple your own cultivation and come with me. Malum was not in a rush, you can suffer less this way. Chu Tian considered the situation in front of him, I can go with you, but you have to let her go. You can't. Meng Qinggu quickly said, Chu Tian, you can't go with them. Chu Tian of course did not want to mix with these warhounds fellows, but the current situation was not good for the two of them. They could only think of a way to deal with it first. At least they could keep their little lives and find a way to escape later. Prisoners of war do not have the qualifications to talk about conditions. What if I still have a bargaining chip in my hand? Bargaining chip? Ha, ha, ha. Is it because of the power contained in your body? It can't be denied that it is very strong, but do you really have the ability to use it again? Malum gently sniffed, I can smell the aura coming from your blood. You are very weak, very weak. If you use it again, you will definitely die. If I die, your mission will fail. Malum broke out in laughter again, a prisoner of war is actually threatening the victor with suicide. Let me tell you, your life is not important at all. Even if you die today, as long as you can bring your corpse back, it will be enough. You're speaking too much nonsense, I'll kill this woman first. The black blade was ignited in flames and a terrifying energy fluctuation created a wild wind. When it blew across the prairie, it was like a wave was being released. Fuck. I'll stake it all with you. Chu Tian floated in the air and released a powerful fluctuation. Malum never thought that Chu Tian would actually dare to resist, then let me see how much this power can be used. Nether flames. The black blade was ignited in flames and when it merged with Malum's source spirit, it turned into a demon covered in black flames. It shot out at Chu Tian like a meteor. Chu Tian. Meng Qinggu shouted in panic. This was the attack of a true spirit realm expert's source spirit. This kind of attack was not something an awakened soul cultivator could withstand. Chu Tian formed a seal with his hands, and his eyes suddenly opened. 7 demonic pupils appeared in his eyes, and a huge power was added to his body, instantly turning him into a gigantic 9-eyed demon god. The evil spirit burning with black flames didn't even have time to approach. It was instantly intimidated by the pressure and dissipated in midair. Here it comes. It was this power. Malum revealed a crazed expression. How could such a weak person possess such great power? If this energy could be extracted and spewed into the space in front of Chu Tian, it would eventually form a layer of spatial fluctuations that were hard to see with the naked eye. Boom! The burning black evil ghost was directly shattered by the shockwave. Malum revealed a shocked expression. This person seemed to have many attributes of his source spirit and he could freely switch between them. When he was in the fort, he had used his soul-attributed energy, instantly harvesting the souls of 5 peak 9th awakened soul layer experts. Other than that, he at least had the ability to use spatial energy. For example, he could teleport or use spatial fluctuations. These were all controlled from the source of space. Spatial energy, this was a legendary innate talent. Even in a giant empire, there were very few people with spatial energy. This person seemed to be able to use spatial energy, this completely subverted Malum's imagination. But so what if the other side was strong? Malum said with a cold smile, your vitality is quickly weakening. If you keep fighting, you're dead for sure. I'll give you one last chance. Surrender to me and pledge your loyalty to the warhounds and you can live. Malum was right. Chu Tian had released the power of his main source spirit twice, which had an unimaginable effect on him. Although his body had reached the second layer of the starlight immortal body, his physique was still too weak. Adding in the fact that his cultivation was not high enough, he could not resist the pressure of his source spirit on his body. Chu Tian blocked Malum's attack and all the blood vessels in his body ruptured again. Large amounts of blood came out of his pores and he couldn't stop sweating, instantly soaking his entire body. One attack. He could only make one more attack. Chu Tian was already at his limit. If he didn't care about the consequences, he would only have one more chance to attack. If he could kill Malum with this attack, the young miss would be able to return safely. If he couldn't kill Malum with this attack, the two of them would die here. Of course, even if it was the former, Chu Tian might not be able to survive. Now it all depended on luck. The nine-eyed demon god closed 8 of its eyes and only opened one eye. This eye corresponded to the faint golden pupil in Chu Tian's eye. An invisible power instantly exploded with Chu Tian as the center. What kind of attack was this? Malum did not feel any elemental energy fluctuations, but he felt a strong power that covered the world around him. He couldn't help feeling a panic that was hard to suppress because this power did not seem to have any defenses. It could pass through all energy and objects, so all defenses were useless against it. Hong! Malum felt his vision darken as the entire world collapsed. There was a power affecting his mind that stripped away all of Malum's senses and pulled him into a silent and dark space. Was this a spiritual attack? Malum could already faintly feel it. This power should be spiritual energy, but it was merged with the user's consciousness. In short, this was a form of divine sense. Chu Tian's divine sense had reached the mind's lamp realm and Chu Tian's spirit energy was very weak, so he could not handle other kinds of energy. So, using a divine sense attack was the safest method for Chu Tian and it was also the most suitable method for Malum to use. A divine sense attack was a spiritual attack. A spiritual attack was invisible and without a trace. Unless one had a strong divine sense or had a source spirit or cultivation technique, any kind of defense would be useless against it. The Warhounds tribe was a spirit beast race. The spirit beast's deep spiritual domain research was almost negligible and Malum's source spirit was not a spiritual type. Although he didn't know what realm his divine sense had reached, it should be at the mind's eye level. Chu Tian's cultivation base could not compare to Malum's, but his divine sense surpassed Malum's. Therefore, he used a divine sense attack, using his strength to attack the enemy's weakness. Endless purgatory. Malum felt a cold and terrifying voice explode in his mind. His surroundings began to change and he felt like he had arrived in a world of lava. Beneath his feet was lava and there were burning red iron pillars that rose high up from the lava. A ferocious demon with the head of a bull and body of a human was covered in hot lava. He held a burning red chain in his hand as he charged at Malum with a ferocious expression. Shwa! The chains in the ox-headed demon's hands instantly shot out and bound Malum's body. The flames attached to the chains made Malum feel an indescribable pain. It was as if the flames were not only burning his body, but also his mind and soul. Scram! Malum roared out as he broke free, causing the chain to shatter. A black blade slashed out and the Minotaur demon gave a pitiful cry before turning into flames. You want to kill me with this kind of insignificant skill? Before Malum's voice fell, several outlines appeared around the lava lake. They were all terrifying demons with bull heads and human bodies. These monsters slowly rose up from the lava lake, each one holding a flaming iron lock in their hands. Malum felt like he was in a trance. He felt like his body had been split in two and there were two Malums in this space. They could even look at each other, but what was strange was that these two Malums were controlled by the same will. The Minotaur demon waved the burning chains to attack. Malum raised the black blade to cut the chains, instantly cutting apart several Minotaur demons. What Malum never thought was that his other body would be hit by the chains and that unbearable pain instantly spread through his body and spirit. How could this be? Malum had two bodies in this space and both bodies had their senses, but his consciousness was still the same, so the two bodies were not divided. It was like Malum's left and right hand being controlled by his consciousness. In other words, if Malum protected his left hand and his right hand was injured, Malum would still feel intense pain. Damn it! What kind of evil technique was this? Malam controlled two bodies to repel the Minotaur demons at the same time. The third wave of Minotaur demons appeared. What made Malam feel fear and despair was that the number of Minotaur demons kept increasing and Malam's bodies kept increasing. When the third wave began, there were 18 Minotaur demons and Malam's bodies had become 3. A normal person's consciousness could only control one body. Now that his consciousness was connected to 3 bodies, Malam's control over his body became very stiff and he often made mistakes in his control. The worst part was that if any body was attacked, it would cause unimaginable pain. If all 3 bodies were attacked at the same time, Malam's consciousness would suffer 3 times the pain. Pang! The third wave of Minotaur demons was defeated. The fourth wave of Minotaur demons appeared. There were 36 of them and Malam's bodies became 4. Malam almost lost control of his body and could only watch as the Minotaur demons wildly attacked. The fifth wave, the sixth wave, the 7th wave. Malam's bodies became more and more numerous and he completely lost control of his body. Pa! Each body was hit by a whip. Malam instantly felt several dozen waves of extreme pain attack him at the same time. Malam almost fainted, but in this spiritual space, he was not allowed to faint. Malam's body was still splitting and the number of Minotaur demons in the space was still increasing. The 100th wave. The 1000th wave. The 10,000th wave. It was like Malam had tens of thousands of bodies and each body was tied to a red pillar by the Minotaur demons. Each body was being tortured by tens of thousands of Minotaur demons. Even the smallest torture, when magnified by 10,000 times, was enough to cause a large amount of damage. Not to mention that Malam's tens of thousands of bodies were enduring unimaginable torture. All of this gathered into a torrent of pain that fiercely attacked his mind and soul. Malam's mind exploded like glass. Chapter 330. This kind of attack had never been heard of before. The endless duplication of pain, the endless creation of torture, when the unbearable mental torture was magnified by 10,000 times, then the instant impact on the spirit, this was like a monstrous wave, slamming heavily on the weak dam. The result was almost no suspense. Malam was perhaps a warrior with extremely strong willpower. Only, the mental torture was enough to collapse any warrior, not to mention multiplying it by 10,000 times. Even the strongest warrior in the world would die from a mental breakdown after receiving such a terrifying attack. Even if they survived, they would most likely become crazy. This was endless purgatory. Chu Tian's incomparably powerful divine sense attack. That pain and torture continued to attack the mental dam, causing his entire mental structure to collapse. When Malam's consciousness was about to collapse, the purgatory-like spiritual world popped like a bubble. The 9-eyed demon god's power disappeared. Chu Tian's face was pale and he was covered in sweat. Damn, just a little bit more. Malam was thrown back into the real world and with a pitiful cry, he fell to the ground. His body twitched and his mind was heavily injured, temporarily unable to recover. His mind hadn't completely collapsed. Malam's cultivation was higher than Chu Tian's and because of his advantage in cultivation, as well as his strong willpower, Chu Tian could not directly suppress him. He could resist a bit of the divine sense attack in the beginning, but this had consumed quite a bit of Chu Tian's strength. So the entire attack had not been fully displayed and had been forcefully interrupted, so it could not completely collapse Malam's mind. This is bad. He really did not have the strength to launch a second attack. Meng Qinggu did not know what had happened because the flow of time in the spiritual world was different from the material world. Chu Tian had tortured Malam for an entire day and night in the spiritual world, but it had only been a few seconds in the real world. It was hard for bystanders to feel the entire process. All Meng Qinggu could see was that Chu Tian had glared at Malam and Malam had been seriously injured, almost losing control of his mind. As for Chu Tian, he had collapsed to the ground. What had happened? Chu Tian fell to the ground, unable to move. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Fox, take this opportunity to finish him off." The little fox's eyes released an emerald green glow. It used all its strength to control the Thunder Hawk's mind. The Thunder Hawk's beak turned blue and condensed a thin bolt of lightning. The Thunder Eagle was also resisting the little fox. The little fox gave a sharp cry and the Thunder Hawk's body trembled. The little fox's divine sense completely penetrated the Thunder Hawk's mind, and the Thunder Hawk was finally controlled by the little fox, letting out a clear cry. Damn! Damn it! Malam's entire body was trembling and he couldn't even pick up his blade. My body. Ah! I will kill you. I'm going to kill you. Now, Chu Tian was unconscious. Malam had suffered a serious mental injury and it was very difficult to recover from mental injuries. The severe side effects would most likely follow him for the rest of his life, but at the very least, Malam was still alive after receiving such a fierce attack. On the other hand, Chu Tian was unable to resist because he had used too much strength. You. All have to die. Malam's body trembled as he knelt down. His eyes seemed like they couldn't focus as he shook his head. His eyes were red as he gave a low roar like a wild beast as he reached out to pick up the blade on the ground. Hell nether flames. The trembling blade released a surging flame that spread indiscriminately in all directions. Malam clearly didn't have a way to accurately attack, so he could only use his true spirit realm cultivation to attack over a large area, killing everyone at once. The Thunder Eagle let out a sharp cry as it swooped down. A streak of lightning struck Malam's body and instantly sent Malam flying, heavily landing on the ground. He did not hold on to the long blade and it flew several dozen meters away. Hong! A black fire dragon swept across the ground in an instant, creating a deep scar that was startling to the eye. Malam stood up with a roar of unwillingness. When the Thunder Hawk swooped down with its claws, he used his bare hand to block it. Half of his body was pushed into the ground and the Thunder Hawk flapped its wings, wanting to fly away. Malam released his spirit energy with a roar and a terrifying power locked onto the Thunder Hawk's body, slamming it into the ground. He wanted to tear the Thunder Hawk in half. The little fox was anxious. If the Thunder Hawk was killed, there really wouldn't be any other way. The little fox did not have a strong body and its demonic techniques only had summoning and control abilities. It was only effective against demon beasts, so it had no way of dealing with Malam. At this critical moment, Meng Qinggu decisively pulled out Chu Tian's netherworld sword and quickly charged at Malam. While Malam was wildly swinging the Thunder Hawk, she stabbed her sword at Malam's back. Dang! Meng Qinggu was sent flying 4-5 meters with spirit energy. She felt a sharp pain in her wrist like her joints were sprained. No! The other side was too strong. Even if he was delirious, she couldn't easily injure him. The little fox found a magazine beside Chu Tian and it immediately went to pick it up. This was a magazine filled with blood-in steel needles. The little fox bit out the needles and swallowed them before waving its claws at Meng Qinggu. Meng Qinggu nodded. The little fox spat out several blood-in steel needles and each one was covered in a demonic technique. They shot at Malam at a speed close to the speed of sound. Malam was delirious right now. How could he distinguish this kind of attack? He didn't even maintain his protective spirit energy and all the needles landed on Malam's divine sense. There were even 2 needles that directly stabbed into his eyes. Ah! Malam wildly roared as he randomly swept out with his claws, creating 5 deep claw marks in the grass. This was an attack from a true spirit realm expert, so if he was hit, he would die without a doubt. However, Malam was delirious, so it was hard for him to accurately hit Meng Qinggu. Meng Qinggu had to take this risk. She raised Chu Tian's netherworld sword and looked at Malam. There was only one chance, so she had to succeed. At this time, the netherworld sword began to glow. A faint blue and white flame covered the sword blade. Meng Qinggu was very surprised. This sword had lent its power to her, but Meng Qinggu was clearly not the netherworld sword's master. This was the difference between the netherworld sword and a normal soul-contracting weapon. A normal soul contracting weapon spirit did not have a high ability to think, but the netherworld sword's weapon spirit already had its own consciousness. So when Meng Qinggu picked up the sword, the weapon spirit, netherworld, would decide whether or not to resist. Now that Chu Tian had fainted from his heavy injuries, Meng Qinggu had to kill the spirit beast to save her master's life. Therefore, the netherworld sword did not resist Meng Qinggu, rather it took the initiative to increase the might of this attack. Meng Qinggu took out all her spirit energy and suddenly jumped forward. The sword blade left a blue and white trail as it slashed at Malam's neck, directly cutting off Malam's head. Blood sprayed out. This Warhounds tribe's peak expert had died in the hands of the weak and innate battle talent Meng Qinggu in the end. Meng Qinggu never thought that she would have the chance to kill a true spirit realm expert. The little fox let out a sigh of relief. Its little life was finally saved. Meng Qinggu searched Malam's body a few times and found a small delicate bag. Meng Qinggu could feel a faint spatial energy in the bag, so it should be a spatial item, which was a storage bag. Although it only had 5 cubic meters of space, it was still a spatial item. Meng Qinggu didn't have time to see what was inside. She casually took Malam's black long blade and returned to Chu Tian's side. She laid down on his chest and listened. His heartbeat was slow and weak, but he shouldn't be dead. Meng Qinggu was not clear on how serious Chu Tian's injuries were, but it should not be good. Meng Qinggu carried Chu Tian on her back as she headed in the direction of Imperial City with gritted teeth. Yesterday Chu Tian carried her and today it was her turn to carry Chu Tian. The two of them were truly a pair of enemies. But Meng Qinggu did not go too far. Around several dozen kilometers away, she found a southern Xia sentry post. When Chu Tian showed his identity, the sentry captain brought out a beast carriage and personally sent the two of them back to Imperial City. Imperial City was already in chaos. The great scholar Gu Qianqiu had brought the news of the front lines falling a day earlier than Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu. Gu Qianqiu was also heavily injured when he returned to Imperial City. Because many people had personally witnessed it, the news could not be blocked at all, causing many people to panic. In just a short day, several thousand soldiers had escaped from the front lines. The news these people brought back shocked the citizens of Imperial City. The Fang King had led the Warhounds army to attack the front lines and the entire defensive line had collapsed. The Southern Summer King who was patrolling had been assassinated by the traitor Wang Tianlong. 2 large pieces of bad news had arrived at the same time. The entire Imperial City was not prepared for this at all. Now that the calm martial ruler was away, the Tsang state battlefield was in a stalemate. Even if the calm martial ruler received the news, he wouldn't be able to come back in time. Even if Imperial City had 400,000 soldiers and 2,000 Griffin Knights, could they stop the Warhounds' army? When the Southern Summer King fell, he appointed the calm martial ruler, Dongfang Gan, as the next king. Perhaps even the Southern Summer King did not think that the situation in Southern Xia would deteriorate to this degree. The Warhounds' army had broken through the defensive line in a single day and were now heading towards Imperial Xia City. There would be a large battle in just a few days. Whether it was the leaders of the country or the military, they were all empty. The entire country was in a state of panic and the situation was very dangerous. At this time, Miracle Commerce's Meng Qinggu had brought Chu Tian back. Meng Qinggu was a famous person in Imperial City and was even called the #1 beauty in Southern Summer. This time, Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu had gone with the Southern Summer King to inspect the defensive line, so when the Warhounds broke through, the two of them were most likely dead. No one would have thought that Meng Qinggu would actually come back alive. Meng Qinggu had come back alive, but she did not look relaxed at all. Her snow-white clothes were covered in mud and blood, her hair was messy, and her face was haggard and weak. She was limping as she walked, it was clear that her leg was injured. Chu Tian's situation was even worse. He was currently unconscious and his life signs were very weak. Elder sister, Chu Tian. Meng Yingying, Nangang Yun, and the others had been worried for an entire day in Imperial City. When they learned that the two of them had safely returned, they excitedly rushed out to greet them. "You guys scared me to death." Meng Yingying's eyes were filled with tears as she tightly hugged Meng Qinggu. "You two are Yingying's most important people. If anything happened to either of you, I wouldn't be able to live." Meng Qinggu patted Meng Yingying's back and also let out a sigh of relief. "There were several times when I thought I would never see you again, but it was all thanks to Chu Tian risking his life that I was able to come back." But Chu Tian's situation is not good. Meng Yingying's nerves tensed up. When she saw Chu Tian's body covered in blood, she couldn't help covering her mouth. What happened to Chu Tian? How did he get injured? How are his injuries? I don't know either. Chu Tian was not injured, most of his injuries were caused by himself. As for how serious his injuries were, Meng Qinggu could not guess, but looking at his weak life signs, it was very serious. "Then what are you still doing here?" Nangong Yun came over and carried Chu Tian. "Yingying, quickly go to the research institute and call out those old men. Let them take a look at Chu Tian." Chapter 331. In Miracle Commerce's headquarters. Meng Yingying was sitting beside Chu Tian rubbing her red eyes while Nangong Yun was comforting her. Chen Bingyu, Feng Kaidai, Yun Yao, and the others all had pained expressions on their faces. There was a group of old men whispering to each other, but they couldn't hear what they were discussing. They just had their brows knit together or were constantly sighing. The entire room was filled with a pessimistic atmosphere. "Are you guys done yet? Have you seen anything after looking at him for so long?" Nangong Yun had a fiery temper and couldn't help exploding. She anxiously scratched her head and shouted, "You only know how to sigh, sigh my ass. What's the situation right now? Can boss be saved or not? Just give us a quick answer." Meng Qinggu and her sister's hearts were in their throats. This was what they wanted to know. "Don't be excited, don't be excited." Zhao Pu gave a few awkward coughs. "Forgive me for being blunt, the chairman's situation is very bad. All his organs are showing signs of failing and there are many broken meridians. His spirit energy is weakening, but this is not the main reason. The chairman cultivates the starlight immortal body, so his physique is very strong and his recovery rate is very high. Otherwise, if it was a normal person, they would have already died. The most troublesome part is that the chairman has overdrawn his vitality." Meng Yingying nervously asked, "His vitality is lost? What does that mean?" Old Zhao's meaning is that the chairman might have forcefully used a forbidden technique with large side effects. This forbidden technique might have burned his vitality as a price, so it caused a serious overdrawing of his vitality. Simply put, if the chairman could live to be 100 years old, he might not even be 50 years old right now. Moreover, his vitality is still weakening. How could it be like this? Everyone revealed a look of shock. This side effect was too terrifying. Chu Tian was still this young. If his vitality was damaged early, wouldn't that be a very bad thing? Meng Qinggu finally understood. Although Chu Tian had a heaven-defying strength, he rarely used it. The main reason was because if he used this strength too much, not only would it attract the attention of others, it would also be very dangerous for him. Meng Yingying was at a loss. Then what should we do? Right now, there's still hope to recover from the initial damage. If it takes too long and causes the lost vitality to completely solidify, then it'll be harder than ascending to heaven to replenish it. Meng Qinggu quickly asked, "Just tell us what materials we need. It doesn't matter how much it costs." "Vice President, this is not a matter of money. It's just that with the resources of Southern Xia, I'm afraid that we won't be able to find a medicine of this level. Not even in the whole of Southern Xia." The few old men looked at each other and sighed. This kind of heaven-mending medicine must be of immortal grade. The women's faces instantly turned pale. Immortal medicine? Where in Southern Xia could they find immortal herbs? Southern Xia was a small country. The spiritual energy in the land was relatively poor and there weren't many sacred medicines growing there. Most of the sacred medicines were imported from abroad or dug out from ancient ruins. How could they find immortal herbs? They could only go to large countries or even empires to buy them, but immortal herbs were very expensive. Miracle Commerce's reserve of several billion gold coins sounded like a lot in southern Xia, but what did it count for in that kind of place? Immortal herbs were often priceless. Even if Miracle Commerce had enough money, they still wouldn't be able to buy them. Chu Tian's condition could not be dragged on. Once it was dragged on, the side effects would be permanent. At that time, even if they obtained immortal herbs, they would not be able to save him. Meng Yingying said with some difficulty, "Elder sister, what do we do?" "Don't be afraid. No matter what price we have to pay, we will definitely save Chu Tian." Meng Qinggu tightly clenched her fists. Actually, no one knew that the one feeling the most guilty right now was her. The reason why Chu Tian was injured like this was mostly because of her, so she had to save him no matter what. Southern Xia doesn't have any medicine, so we'll look elsewhere. "I believe we'll definitely find it." Meng Qinggu asked the old men, "Then when will Chu Tian wake up?" "That's hard to say." Zhao Pu stroked his beard. "Not only is the chairman's body injured, his mind is also exhausted. I'm afraid he'll need to sleep for 2-3 days, so I suggest the chairman rest well. This way, he can recover from the damage to his mind." They could only do this. "Vice chairman, vice chairman." At this time, a Miracle Commerce employee ran in a panic. "The Burning Sun ruler, the Refined ruler, and the Great Scholar are here. They want to see the chairman." "The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler are here. Yingying, take care of Chu Tian, I'll go take a look." Meng Qinggu came out with several people. The Burning Sun ruler was wearing a thick scarlet armor and the Refined ruler was wearing a golden silk armor. There were several important people behind them, including the great scholar Gu Qianqiu. The Refined ruler opened his mouth and asked, "Where is Chu Tian?" "Have him come out." "What do you mean?" Meng Qinggu was a bit afraid of the Refined ruler. The Shengguan family did not have a good relationship with Miracle Commerce, so it was hard to say what the Shengguan family would do in this special time. The matter on the front lines was an accident. As for the Southern Summer King's death, even Chu Tian can't do anything about it. "Do you want to go to his door to punish him?" "It's a misunderstanding." "It's a misunderstanding. Refined ruler, can you put away that stinky face of yours?" The Burning Sun ruler glared at the Refined ruler and then said to Meng Qinggu, "Now that the country is in trouble, how could Southern Xia destroy its own walls? We already know what happened and Chu Tian did his best. No matter who is to blame for the matter on the front lines, it can't be blamed on Chu Tian. Not to mention that Chu Tian has already been bestowed the title of country guarding ruler by our king, his ruler rank is above us too." "Then you are vice chairman. Southern Xia has already reached a life and death juncture." Gu Qianqiu also came out to speak at this time. After thinking about it, perhaps only Chu Tian has the means to turn the tide. "So, we want to see him and ask for a way to save the country." "So it's like this." Meng Qingwu's heart sank. The Refined ruler and the Burning Sun ruler had lowered their statuses to find Chu Tian, clearly seeing him as their last hope. This meant that the situation was already very bad. When Chu Tian was coming back, he fought with a Warhound's true spirit expert and is currently in a coma. "I'm afraid he won't wake up for now." "Damn!" The Burning Sun ruler angrily said, "How could it be like this?" Gu Qianqiu's expression also changed. "The Warhound's army is already showing signs of moving, what should we do?" Meng Qinggu was shocked. "What? They're coming this quickly? The frontline battle is very fierce, don't they need to adjust?" The Refined ruler said with a dark expression. After the Warhound's army reached the southern summer border, not only did their strength not weaken, they even added large amounts of siege troops from the Warhound's plains. They will reach Imperial City in 3 days and Imperial City's defenses cannot stop the Fang King's personally led army. What should they do? The various marquises are quickly returning to Imperial City, but there is no time to move the troops north. The Burning Sun ruler tightly clenched his fist. there's no other way. Even if we have to risk our lives, we can only fight them once. The chances of winning this battle were very slim. Southern Xia had 400,000 soldiers, 2 true spirit experts, the Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler, and adding in the marquises from various regions, their battle strength was guaranteed. But in a normal clash of strength, Southern Xia would lose without a doubt, so they came to ask Chu Tian for help. They hoped that Chu Tian could find 1 or 2 strange moves for Southern Xia. Meng Qinggu never thought it would be this coincidental. Chu Tian would not wake up for a while, so who else had the ability to save Southern Xia other than him? If the country fell, not only would miracle commerce lose its footing, if they lost miracle commerce, what would they use to exchange for the immortal medicine? The warhound's attack would arrive in an instant, so they couldn't escape this calamity. But how should they deal with it? If it was Chu Tian, what would he do? Chu Tian could always think of a way to turn the tide, there was nothing that could stump him. The reason why they were in such a sorry state at the frontline fortress was because Chu Tian did not know anything and lacked information. Otherwise, with Chu Tian's style and ability, even the powerful warhound's kingdom would not have made him suffer such a large loss. Meng Qinggu felt a wave of powerlessness. She did not have Chu Tian, he was at most an outstanding merchant, he could not do anything big at all. Wait a minute. I got it. Imperial City did not have a chance of winning. The calm martial ruler had secretly built a weapon factory outside the city, there were at least 10,000 source energy weapons. If these source energy weapons were taken out to equip the soldiers, it would increase the defensive power of the army by a large amount. Meng Qinggu immediately told this idea to the Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler. The two of them were very shocked. Imperial City actually stored this many source energy weapons? Even the two of them did not know about this matter. The Southern Summer King had truly hidden it too well. Gu Qianqiu also said, if there were enough source energy weapons, this battle might not be impossible. Only the Imperial City's source energy factory has only been built for a short period of time, so at most there are 10,000 source energy weapons. Although they can be used in battle, it will be hard to turn the tide. Just the source energy weapons aren't enough, do we need to prepare something else? What is it? Wait a minute. Meng Qinggu returned to her room and took out a communication device, immediately contacting the Central State Yun sect. Vice Chairman, is that you? Yun Tianhe's voice came from the communication device, I heard that something big has happened in the Imperial region. Shen Fengho quickly left Central State 2 nights ago, what is the situation over there? Time is pressing, it's not the time to talk about this. Meng Qinggu did not want to explain in detail, has the Yun sect produced any results on the source energy bomb they have been researching? It's done, but it hasn't reached the chairman's requirements yet. Meng Qinggu felt a glimmer of hope, use the image transferring mirror to send the relevant technology over. This technology is related to the fate of Imperial City, you have to be fast. Alright. Yun Tianhe understood Imperial City's current situation, I'll immediately send it over. Wait a minute, I haven't finished. What else do you have to say? Immediately contact the giant shark gang's boss Yu and have the fleet head north to Tsang State. If something happens to Imperial City, they can help us retreat to the south. Even if the worst happens and we can't escape Imperial City, they can at least help the calm martial ruler and protect the last elite army for the southern summer country. Yun Tianhe was very shocked. Could the situation in Imperial City have worsened to this degree? Meng Qinggu was not as impulsive as Chu Tian, she was very cautious in everything she did, so she had prepared an escape route ahead of time. If Imperial City couldn't be defended, Miracle Commerce's only chance of survival would be on the water route. The warhounds lived on the prairies and were mainly ground cavalry. If they could retreat to the water route, it would not be easy for them to chase after them. That's right, there's one more thing. Meng Qinggu would not forget the most important thing, activate all the Miracle Commerce radio stations and send out a purchase message to the entire country. What do you need? Yun Tianhe calmed himself, I ask Vice Chairman to tell me. We need a level 2 immortal herb, a level 2 immortal herb that can recover innate vitality. What? An immortal herb? How can this thing be bought in Southern Xia? Even if there is a miracle commerce, what can we use to buy it? I know it is hard, but it is related to Chu Tian's life and death. Even if there is a trace of hope, we still have to try. Could it be that the chairman? Yun Tianhe's voice trembled a bit before he said in a hoarse voice, "Relax, this old man will do his best. In the face of miracle commerce's life and death, I'll leave everything to you." Meng Qinggu gave a long sigh after ending the call. She could only do this much right now. As for the final result, it was not something Meng Qinggu could predict. Chapter 332. Meng Qinggu gave the source energy bomb blueprints from Central State to Gu Qianqiu. With this kind of strong destructive weapon, perhaps it could deal a heavy blow to the warhounds and turn the tide on the battlefield. For now, we can only do this. Use the source energy guns. Make source energy bombs. The source energy weapons were top secret and the Burning Sun ruler and the refined ruler knew very little about them. Of course it was impossible for them to completely hide it with their statuses. At least the two of them had investigated Chu Tian and knew that Chu Tian had a weapon factory in Central State, but they didn't know the specifics of the source energy weapons. Now that the Southern Summer King was dead and the calm martial ruler couldn't come back, Southern Xia was in danger of being destroyed. All the resources and strength they had to be used at this time. So with Gu Qianqiu's strong support, the two rulers decided to bypass the king's ban and forcefully open the source energy weapon factory. Meng Qinggu personally checked the source energy weapon factory's inventory. There were around 14,000 source energy pistols, 2,000 source energy submachine guns, 50,000 magazines for the pistols, and 10,000 magazines for the source energy submachine guns. The energy magazines were all shipped from Central State and were not made in the Imperial region, so there weren't many of them. It was already too late to ship them. These magazines should be able to last for a while. The source energy pistols could kill early awakened soul cultivators or low-level 2 demon beasts, but they were slow and their range couldn't compare to long-range weapons like bows and arrows, so they could only be used in close combat. The refined ruler suggested, there aren't many source energy weapons, so it's impossible to fully equip them. We can only use them to counter them. From the information from the front lines, the Warhound's trump card army is a wolf cavalry army. The demonic wolves are very agile and have very fast reactions, so it is hard to injure them with a rain of arrows. This source energy weapon is suitable to counter them in close combat. The Burning Sun ruler suggested, the Nangong family's Wild Flame army is one of the best heavy armored infantry in Southern Xia. They are stronger than the Southern State barbarians and can block the charge of the demonic wolf cavalry. If they are equipped with source energy pistols, they can form a strong resistance. That makes sense. The two rulers decided to equip the 10,000 source energy pistols with the Wild Flame heavy infantry and an additional 500 submachine guns to increase their firepower. This infantry group was personally commanded by the Burning Sun ruler, so they had strong close combat abilities. Now that they had these weapons, naturally their strength would increase by a large amount. Gu Qianqiu suggested, there are still 2,000 source energy submachine guns left. This old man recommends equipping them to the Royal Griffin Knights. The Griffin Knights are the strongest army in Imperial City and even in Southern Xia. They have the advantage of air suppression and if they have the support of strong submachine guns, they will become a nightmare for the Warhounds. The Griffin Knights had exactly 2,000 men left. This army was already extremely powerful, and now that they had the suppressive firepower, their strength had increased by at least several times. It was enough to suppress the enemy from the air at critical moments. No wonder our king is so confident that he's ready to start the northern expedition. The Burning Sun ruler was filled with excitement. My Southern Xia has this kind of powerful weapon, we indeed have the ability to flatten the Warhound plains. What a pity. They never thought that the Warhounds would be a step faster. In the end, he died before he could fulfill his ambition. could it really be the will of the heavens? If the warhounds attacked a month later, the first batch of source energy weapons would have been sent to the army. When the Southern Xia army had over 100,000 source energy weapons, how could it be easy for the warhounds to break through the front lines? There were no assumptions in this world. Meng Qinggu was still not optimistic. She had seen the battle strength of the warhounds' army, and these 10,000 source energy weapons could increase Southern Xia's battle strength, but the increase was limited. It was impossible for them to resist the several 100,000 warhounds' army. Just relying on the source energy weapons was far from enough. Meng Qinggu ordered all the source energy batteries stored in Imperial City to be taken out for emergency modification. Gu Qianqiu gathered several thousand scholars to participate in the production. All kinds of source energy batteries were transformed into simple source energy bombs, allowing everyone to mass-produce source energy bombs. The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler also quickly deployed their troops, preparing talismans, medicine, arrows, and war equipment. The several million people in Imperial City were mobilized. When the nest is overturned, there are no intact eggs. No matter what conflicts the families had, they were all united to fight against the enemy at this moment. Large amounts of source energy bombs were made before long. These bombs are very unstable, so we have to be very careful when using them. Otherwise we might injure ourselves and it might lead to unimaginable dangers. Meng Qinggu directed the scholars to deploy the bombs. Our bombs are very limited, so we have to make sure we can use them on the battlefield. It's best if we can catch them off guard and deal them a heavy blow. When Meng Qinggu was busy deploying, a piece of good news came. Other than Sung State's Green Cloud Marquis, the other 7 Southern Summer Marquises had gathered in Imperial City, including Shenfengho, the Golden Arrow Marquis, the Four Direction Marquis, and the others. These Marquises had come in a hurry, only bringing their personal guards. There were only around 3,000 people, but these 3,000 people were very strong. After Meng Qinggu learned of the situation, she immediately went to the royal palace to see them. When the Western Marquis saw Meng Qinggu appear, his face turned dark and filled with shame. He would never forget the humiliation Miracle Commerce had given him in his life. Although he did not see Chu Tian, seeing Meng Qinggu was enough to make his teeth itch. Meng Qinggu was most worried about internal problems in Imperial City. Why did the front lines collapse? A large part of the reason was Wang Tianlong's betrayal, so Dongfang Zhan had to personally suppress it. Because the frontline marshal had left the command post, he could not respond to the situation at the back, speeding up the collapse of the front lines. Qinggu greets the Western Marquis. Meng Qinggu also nodded. Chu Tian has offended the Western Marquis, so after this matter is over, Qinggu will personally apologize. But with the enemy in front of us, I ask the Western Marquis to cooperate. Shengguanhong, you are still the Southern Summer King's second-class military marquis. The Refined ruler reprimanded him with a look of dissatisfaction. With the country in danger, personal grudges are not worth mentioning. This ruler does not want the Shengguan family to bear the crime of destroying the country. The Burning Sun ruler also said, Chu Tian has already become the country-guarding ruler and is the leader of the rulers, so it is not shameful for you to suffer this loss. Now that the war hounds are in front of us, we must cooperate. Yes. When the Western Marquis saw the 2 rulers come out to speak, how could he dare act out? He immediately cupped his hands and said, Shengguanhong will face the danger with my own body, even if I die 10,000 times. Meng Qinggu was relieved seeing this. She looked at Shenfengho and the Golden Arrow Marquis. You guys came this quickly. Shenfengho nodded. My king sent out a royal proclamation not long ago, requesting the southern states to make their preparations as well as a plan to move troops from the south to the north. We were already prepared to come to Imperial City at any time, so when we learned of the changes in the Imperial region, we immediately rushed over. It's a pity. The Golden Arrow Marquis said with a sigh, we rushed over, but we couldn't bring the army with us. There was no way around it. Although the armies of the various states had not arrived yet, the marquises were all peak experts of southern Xia and were all experienced generals, so they could handle this task by themselves. With the help of these people in Imperial City, their chances of winning this battle would increase by quite a bit. Shen Fengho's voice was a bit hoarse. I heard that the old marshal Meng Qinggu gave a heavy nod. At this time, the marquises all had silent expressions. Whether it was Shen Fengho, the Golden Arrow Marquis, the Western Marquis, or the other marquises, as long as they were in front of Dongfang Zhan, they would all respectfully call him the marshal. This was because they had more or less worked under Dongfang Zhan before, so they all admired Dongfang Zhan's character. The pillar of the country had collapsed, how could they not sigh? What is the current situation? The Greenwood Marquis said, how should we fight? Meng Qinggu had already done her best. The source energy guns and the source energy bombs, these two things could greatly increase the chances of Imperial City's defense. However, the final result of Imperial City was not something that Meng Qinggu could predict, she could only leave it to fate. Meng Qinggu was a merchant, so she had no experience in analyzing the battlefield. She only knew that the Warhound's army was very strong, so how they would defend would depend on these people. The calm martial ruler was not here and the burning sun ruler had the highest rank in the army, so he was in charge of the defense. From now on, the entire city will be under military control and all food will be distributed. The citizens of the city will not be allowed to leave and the mercenaries will be used to fight. The Greenwood Marquis, Shen Fengho, you will be in charge of the southern defenses. The Golden Arrow Marquis, Western Peace Marquis, you will be in charge of the eastern defenses. The Western Marquis, Far East Marquis, I will leave the western defenses to you. The Refined Ruler and I will be in charge of the northern defenses. The military deployment will be as follows. The southern summer Imperial City was anxiously deploying and the Warhounds were quickly reorganizing, increasing the pace of their advance. This was because the Fang King was very clear that his time was limited. The calm martial ruler's 200,000 cavalry and the Green Cloud Marquis 200,000 cavalry, once they left the Tsang State Plains, these 400,000 highly mobile troops would return to the Imperial region and the Warhounds would fall into a difficult situation. This was a battle of speed. The Fang King had to rush back before the calm martial ruler returned and take down Imperial City. Once they took down Imperial City, Southern Summer would not have the strength to reverse the situation. Finally, the Warhounds' army appeared to the north of Imperial City. The vast Warhounds' army far surpassed their imagination and the Imperial City garrison couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. The flags were like waves in the sea and there were at least 700,000-800,000 of them. It was no different from when they attacked the front lines. This was strange. It was impossible for an army to increase in numbers as they fought. Although the Warhounds had a large victory in breaking through the front lines, they had lost at least 200,000 people. Why were there still so many soldiers in their field of vision? The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler found the problem because they recognized many old enemies among the Warhounds' army's flags. From the information they had received, these old Warhounds tribes did not participate in the battle. It was clear that the Warhounds had not completely submitted to the Fang King. There were some old Warhounds tribes that did not participate in the battle. This was most likely a bet between the Fang King and them. As long as they broke through the front lines of southern Xia, these old tribes would submit. If the Fang King was defeated, these old tribes would leave the Fang King and in the end, the Fang King would be the only one left. These old tribes had seen the Fang King's strength, so they had no choice but to accept it. The Fang King's army had gained a very precious air force. From the scale, there were around 20,000 people and they were all riding on vultures. This was a large vulture cavalry and it was clear they were here to fight against the Griffin Knights in Imperial City. This was too hard to believe. An air force of vultures and a demon wolf cavalry. The mounts, soldiers, and equipment of these two armies were all the same. This was clearly something that could only be created with a strong breeding and manufacturing power. The Warhounds' breeding ability was not bad, but they couldn't create this many high-quality mounts. Moreover, the Warhounds' equipment manufacturing skills were very simple, so how could they create this kind of army? The Fang King rode a three-headed demon wolf, walking alone in the direction of Imperial City. This is the new Fang King. The Burning Sun ruler felt a pressure coming from the Fang King. This person's cultivation was higher than his by quite a bit, even the calm martial ruler could not compare, so it's a nameless person. Behind the Fang King was a group of Warhound's kingdom experts, including 3-4 true spirit experts who were all old tribe chiefs. Other than that, there was also the Southern Summer rebel Wang Tianlong. The Fang King had sent out his full strength in this battle, preparing to capture Southern Summer's imperial city in a single battle. The difference in strength between the two sides was too large and the fall of Southern Summer was imminent, but the Fang King was not excited at all. Rather, he said with a dark expression, "Malam was killed by the two of you." Who was Malam? The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler were stunned. "It was me who killed him." A sweet girl's voice sounded from the city walls. Meng Qingguo was not wearing her usual white robe, rather she was wearing a silver armor. She was fully armed like a valiant general. Gu Qianqiu was shocked. Chairman Meng actually killed that person. The Burning Sun ruler asked in a strange voice, "What? Could it be that person's background is very big?" "Of course." Gu Qianqiu angrily said, "Malam is the Hellsong tribe's vice-tribe chief and a true spirit cultivator who worked with the rebel Wang Tianlong to kill my king." True spirit cultivator? Everyone was shocked. A weak girl like Meng Qingguo actually personally killed a Warhound's true spirit cultivator. This news was too shocking. Just the merit from this head was enough for Meng Qingguo to become a marquis. After all, in all these years, Southern Xia had never killed a Warhound's true spirit expert before. Even if a Warhound's true spirit expert fell, it would be because of internal strife. The entire Warhound's army was thrown into an uproar. Malam actually died in the hands of a weak girl. The Fang King's face was extremely dark and his eyes seemed like they were about to spit fire. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.